You are now listening to the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Hello, hey friends, it is Thursday yet again, as Stefano says in the chat there. Good to see everybody joining us, and of course, I'm most excited because one of my most regular friends are here. What's going on, Zach?
How's it going, man? How's it going?
It's only been a good, I think, 4 months, but it still feels like some time. I feel like we do this all the time, and I'm always excited for it.
What was the last thing we did? Well, I know it wasn't Stephen King. What did we do after that? I feel like there was one between them.
Did Ty West.
Ty West, that's what it was. Yeah.
That was a fun one.
Yeah. So that was right after Maxine. I think it was like the week Maxine came out.
Or yeah, like something like that. Yeah. Tonight, we are going kind of far from what we normally cover. Why don't you share with everybody what our conversation's going to be tonight?
So I guess after we get to talk about some recent releases, what everyone can blow their money on, I guess I'll talk about the poor area of Appalachia where I grew up. I have a lot of love for the area. I'll probably get into gushing about that quite a bit as we go through, but I thought it'd be fun to kind of tackle what I would say is a underrepresented area of the U.S., at least as far as film and media goes. So yeah, I thought that would be kind of a fun topic to delve into, and there will be some horror stuff, so I gotta stay a little on brand.
If Will ever comes and watches this, he's probably gonna be upset that he's not a part of this, but Will, just know we're doing it in honor of you, I promise. Other than that, we've got a lot to cover tonight. As usual, big week of announcements. We have a lot of Severn to talk about tonight. That's probably the biggest thing. And then some studio stuff, some other big things. Our normal stuff, some recent pickups and watches. What do you got in recently?
Ooh, mine. I think I'm with a lot of people in the chat. I recently got Second Sight's Blair Witch. Very nice set. Beautiful set. Like, great. Huge book. I really wasn't expecting that. It's got the journal with it. Really excited to delve into that. Yes. That's probably my favorite release of theirs now with The Guest. That was probably my one before it. So
yeah, that makes sense. If you're a big Blair Witch fan, this box really does it justice.
It really does. It has a lot to it. I think there was a new documentary with it, so I'm definitely planning to watch that soon. Beyond that, I just got my Deaf Crocodile, the Outcast. So I haven't got to watch it yet, but that's great. And then, yes. See, I didn't even have to bring anything. You can just show them off for me.
Beautiful box on the Outcast, all hand pencil drawn.
And I think the only other thing I got recently was I did a Vinegar Syndrome order, which meant I bought a bunch of partner labels and nothing Vinegar Syndrome. I got let's see. Now I'm trying to sit here and remember. I got Red Rooms. I got Murder Party. And there is something else that I'm blanking out hard. Red Rock West, because I just accepted I'm never going to get the slip for that. So I'll just get the standard. It's fine.
It's
I just want
wild that's the only cinematograph that's sold out this entire year is Red Rock West.
And it sold out I feel like it was quick. Maybe I'm just waited too long because I do that a lot, but I feel like it sold out pretty quickly.
Yeah. Josephine, as usual, recent watches, All of Me, May, Desperate Rides Again, Prince of Broadway, Peeper, Car Wash, and Tango and Cash. I gotta be honest, I think I've only ever seen Maid and Prince of Broadway from this list. Prince of Broadway, underrated. Maid, I have not seen it in a long time, but I remember thinking it was decent.
I think I saw Tango and Cash at some point. I think that's the only one
I have, actually. So recent pickups for me, I will round out the Deaf Crocodile Love. These all came in the same box. This is Trapped Ashes. Incredible packaging on this. Love the set they did. This is their first 4K release. Popped it in. Looks incredible. Still wild to see our essays on some of these. In fact, this month on all three of these. And The Outcast was supposed to be a November release, and we got it with our October box, so that was nice. The other one is Tamala 2010, A Punk Cat in Space. This movie, if you have never seen it, this movie is insanity. It is so many different kinds of animation styles all bundled into one, and it is gorgeous and funny and adult and silly, and I love it. Absolutely just thrilled to be a part of that. Since a couple of those were ones that you had, I'll throw out another one that I will happily admit I've never seen. This is the big box release of The Third Man. I'm going to be watching this for my first time here soon. This just came out from Studio Canal in the UK. When you open this box up, it plays the theme from The Third Man. Cannot imagine how stoked I'm going to be to finally see that movie.
And that was one of the ones when I remember when I first got into Criterions. I think Third Man, I can always tell when I got into it because Third Man had just went out of print, for that one. So that's how I always remember it. And I almost bought it because at that point I was like, sure, I can resell that eventually, and I just never did. So I've never seen it because of that.
I remember back right when that out of print, there was still a ton of them on the shelves of Barnes and Nobles. So people were going out and buying them off of the shelf and selling it for 5 times the price on eBay around then.
Yeah, they did that. The same thing happened with what was it? Don't Look Now, Rosemary's Baby. I think they also bought Paramount stuff at once. I remember when all that happened. But now they both have 4Ks, so it doesn't matter.
That is very, very true. What about some recent watches? What have you been spending your time with?
Ooh, so I've been kind of, I did October. I watched a bunch of horror stuff, so I've kind of been mixing it up a little bit this month, trying to, space out to different things. I watched a couple Clint Eastwood movies. I watched White Hunter Black Heart, which was very fascinating. It's not one I've really heard much about, but I figured it would be kind of an I wanted to, because I'm really bitter about not getting to see Juror Number 2. I just figured I'd watch something Clint Eastwood. Maybe one day I'll get to see it. But it's a really cool movie. So it's essentially about this. It's supposed to be John Huston in African Queen. They slightly changed the names, but essentially he's trying to make this Clint Eastwood plays a director who's kind of idiosyncratic about, the way he speaks and everything else. And he, really just wants to make this movie so he can go hunt an elephant. He doesn't really give a reason why. He just wants to hunt an elephant. And it really goes into that. It has a pretty big commentary on how audiences, it's a story shouldn't be about, satisfying 85,000 people who like blockbusters, but just trying to make something meaningful. Really cool movie. Very different for Eastwood as far as acting goes for him. So highly recommend that one. I rewatched $1 Million Baby, which is still sad. But great rug pull. I was actually watched it this time. It's been a long time since I've seen it. And I was kind of amazed about how great of a rug pull that movie is. It's hard to talk about now because it's kind of like talking about The Sixth Sense and talking about Twist.
Right.
But I think $1 Million Baby does pull it off incredibly well. I remember the trailers for that one were just, they just treated it like it was going to be a Rocky movie. That's all they did. And I think it's effective. And I think it's hard to appreciate that as much now for what it did. And beyond that, I've been watching some Ridley Scott stuff, trying to get ready for Gladiator 2 next week. So
nice.
Yeah, Matchstick Men was the one I watched today. Really fantastic one. And I started Black Hawk Down, which is just Tony. I swear Tony Scott just let Ridley like put his name on it. It's just a Tony Scott with a bigger budget.
That is a very long, epic filmography to watch through if you're going to go through the whole thing.
Oh, I've been slow rolling Ridley for like 4 or 5 years now, so it's we're getting there. I keep watching the stuff that's really highly regarded. I still haven't watched House of Gucci, and I'm like, I don't know if I really want to be honest. That and Conquest 1492. I don't have the highest hopes for those.
Right. Well, this is a little bit changing the subject, but I have to shout it out because you did such a fun job with it. You haven't been here since July, so why don't you tell us what you did with your watches for October over on the They Live by Film YouTube channel?
Oh, yeah. If anybody wants to hear me ramble for an hour and a half, like if you really just enjoy it on this show, you can go over to the They Live by Film podcast, where I decided to try my hand at a tier list. I'm trying to get a little bit more used to being on camera. And I tier listed 59 horror movies and 3 non-horror movies, or at least spooky movies. And you can hear me review all of them over 96 minutes, if that's your deal. I think it went all right. It was different. It's different being on camera and talking to yourself that long.
It is very, very fun. I truly enjoyed it, and I hope you do more of them because I had a blast. And you get to watch a lot more than me, so I live vicariously through you.
Oh, thanks. I really just shout out to my girlfriend for letting me just steal the TV for pretty much a whole month. So that was very nice of her. I'm very thankful to the Steam Deck she stayed on for the entirety of October.
Well, speaking of stealing the TV, I have not had to work this week other than my producer work. So I've watched way more than normal.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to go through some of these very quickly. Last week, right after the show, we showed the kids Holes. God, that movie is perfect. So glad that both my kids loved it. I had brought up Scary Movie and Scary Movie 2 after they announced this newest one. And my wife and I watched both of those again over the weekend. Scary Movie 1, for anybody that has not seen it in a long time, still a masterpiece. Scary Movie 2 doesn't hold up all that well.
I like the first better than the second, personally. Like,
it's
I've
so
always
much better.
Yeah, like I think there's like really memorable stuff with the second one, but I don't remember the jokes landing like quite as well as the first one.
The cast is crazy good in the second one, but it's also like a 4 or 5 levels of cringe worse.
Yeah.
After that, did a rewatch of the Vinegar Syndrome release of Mountaintop Motel Massacre, and for some information on how I felt about that, pay attention to the New World Pictures podcast next month. Next one, showed my kids, and this is such an odd one to watch, but Tom and Jerry, the 2021 mixture of live action and animation starring Chloe Grace Moretz and Michael Pena. Way better than I expected, even though it's not great.
I was really thinking you were going to tell them you also showed them an SOV film like Murder Top Mountain Massacre. Like, here you go, kids. It's time to learn.
No, I do have a couple others that we showed them that I'm excited to talk about in just a minute. But this one, none of us had ever seen. It just came up, and it was, not great. A lot of people think they ruined the old cartoons and all that, but no, they didn't ruin them. It's just they just don't work quite as well in 2021 when they made this, especially mixing in with just the most cliche story ever made.
Yeah.
Chloe Grace Moretz, though, it like owns that movie. She's the only thing that makes it super watchable.
I like her. I feel like I feel like it was after Carrie. She just like really dropped off. Like,
yeah,
maybe she had a few more things after that, but I just can't think of anything she did after that. But she was big there for a while.
She's done quite a bit since then. It's just mostly like very small indies that she was doing for a handful of years there. Next one, finally, Amazon Prime got My Old Ass with Aubrey Plaza. Saw that one this week and was pleasantly surprised. I thought it was very well made. Honestly, one of the best things about it is that it was set like in the mountains on the East Coast. Not sure if it was Appalachia or not, but it was one of those stories that like the scenery really made most of the shots just breathtaking, and it made it super memorable. The funniest thing to me is Aubrey Plaza is all over the marketing for this movie, and I don't even think she was in it for 5 minutes total.
Really?
Yeah.
Wait, serious? So they just show everything in the trailer? She's in.
She is literally in it for 2 scenes. See, Bryant says, I think it's in Canada. I thought it was in like upstate New York, and then they were going to go to school in Toronto, but it might be Canada. Yeah, she is literally only in it for 5 minutes, if that even. And it was something that let me see. I'm laughing at Sibner text I just got. It was it was I don't know. It could have been a very trope-filled story, but they actually took a couple scenes and threw them on their head. And, most people know the story by now. It is an individual that is coming of age. She's about to go to college, and she gets super high, and suddenly her 39-year-old self shows up, and the 39-year-old self gives her ominous warnings, and the story goes from there. But there are certain things that they could have been very cliche. Like they went through the whole, hey, you should go spend more time with your mom. And, usually in any other movie that would have been, oh, mom dies soon. Tell me about that. And it was, no, she's just a fun person. Just go hang out with her. And it was that like turning over on its head that made it pretty memorable for me. But yeah, like that one. Didn't love it.
I was going to go see that in theaters, but I swear it was only in there for like 2 or 3 weeks at my theater. It wasn't there long.
Silent Manuel says, oh man, I hate it when my 39-year-old self shows up. I mean, if it was Aubrey Plaza, I'd be pretty happy with that. We finished, finally, this is many years too late. We just finished the Chernobyl miniseries. And I will say, if you are out there listening or watching this and have never watched the whole Chernobyl miniseries, it's pretty must-watch television at this point. It's only 5 seasons, only 5 episodes.
Yeah.
All 5 episodes, less than an hour, just under an hour, but they fill every one of those episodes with just an obscene amount of information. They do not let you breathe, it feels like, because they are able to put every square minute of that has absolute just wall-to-wall details and information, and it's beautifully shot and really well acted. Of course, it's an incredibly depressing show.
What's the worst thing about it, though? When they did the trailer, they didn't say from the writer who brought you Hangover 3. That would have sold it.
Oh man, yeah, I would have watched that 4 years ago if it would have said that, Mark. Yeah, Chernobyl's pretty great. So glad we got to finish that one. Just a couple more. We went and rewatched 1994's The Flintstones this week. Showed that to the kids. After watching a lot of like straight to streaming movies recently, and all of the the forced Netflix camera lenses that they have all of their films use and all that, it is amazing to see a film as silly as The Flintstones that just looks gorgeous compared to what is being made in 2024. All of the scenery is amazing. The practical effects are astonishing. The acting is stupendous. Everything holds up. That movie is just perfect. Absolutely love The Flintstones. And amazingly enough, my kids were totally into it. I completely thought they were going to be bored like 20 minutes in. Nope, they were all about that life.
I think that's kind of I try not to get on my soapbox about sincerity and the lack of it and a lot of modern stuff, but I think kids appreciate that. Like they appreciate something sincere. And I mean, it doesn't mean it's automatically great, but I mean, I don't know. I have my issues with a lot of postmodernism, and let's be as self-aware as we possibly can be. We can't be ridiculous, and it's okay to be. I think that's what makes Flintstones work. I hadn't seen it since I was a kid, but I have fond memories.
Next thing not rewatched. This was a first time watch for me. The Arrow release of 1965's A Pistol for Ringo. If you want to hear my thoughts on that one, you can check out an upcoming podcast that has not been released yet that I was on. It will be on the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network. One that I know you watched earlier this year. I finally caught up with Cuckoo. What did you think of Cuckoo this year?
I liked it. I need to go revisit it because I don't think it's a movie that was easy to advertise, but I also don't know if it sold itself well of what it was. I like it though. I wish I had more complex thoughts than that. But I know I want to revisit it before the end of the year.
Yeah, this is one of those movies that, I mean, there's a lot to say about it, but also the plot is muddled to a point on purpose. And so it's one of those things where you just sort of get lost in the style. It's definitely style over substance, it feels like. I don't know. This movie, I feel like it needed a little more exposition to get people invested in it. But that being said, Hunter Schafer just continues the pattern of incredible female performances this year. I feel like this year's had probably 8 or 9 standout female performances that are just remarkable, way better than most any year for something like that.
Oh, I agree, and I think she's definitely. I'm trying to think of some other great performances. I thought Stewart was great for Love Lies Bleeding. Make 'em Monroe, I think, is great in Long Legs, even though it's a lot more reserved. Than most people this year. She did great as well.
I was a big fan of the what is the lead's name? I mean, well, first off, Honora, which I gushed about last week. That was
Haven't seen it yet.
It's
still waiting on seeing it.
She's incredible in that. Man, let me go look at my list because there's a whole bunch from this year that I loved. Here it is. The Substance. I mean, there's 2 incredible female leading performances. Strange Darling. I know that this doesn't get the love right now, but Willa Fitzgerald was incredible in that. Sydney Sweeney in Immaculate I thought was pretty damn good this year. Maxine was this year.
I don't know if you've got a chance to see it yet. I think the leading female performance has like a lot going for it. I feel like Ralph Fiennes is going to like run away with it. I don't know if you've seen Conclave.
Oh, Conclave,
He's
not yet.
so good in that. If he doesn't win, I feel like he's just a shoo-in at this point. I can't think of anyone who could do better than him based on what I've seen.
Yeah, I'm dying to see that one. It looks like it's going to surprise me for sure.
You know, I spent 2 weeks begging my girlfriend. We kept saying we were going to the theater. I was like, we're going to double feature. I was like, let's go watch Conclave. She's like, I was like, come on, it looks good. And finally got her to go see it. We saw that, and what did we see with it? I'll think of it in a minute. Elevation. We went to see that and Elevation together. And by like halfway through it, she's like, I don't know why, but I'm on the edge of my seat in this movie. I was like, I told you it was going to be good. You didn't believe me.
What was it? The last thing rewatched today showed my kids Last Action Hero.
Good choice.
Yeah, my youngest could not possibly care less. He watched for about 20 minutes, but my oldest was smiling the entire runtime. It got over, and he said, "Are they going to make a part 2?" And I was like, "This was 31 years ago, and there is no sequel." And he was like, "No."
It's like, it said it was the last action hero. What do you expect?
Yeah, that was.
Is it Jingle All the Way this year? Have they got to experience that yet?
That was a 2 years ago thing. And funny enough,
good.
When this movie started, they said, "Is this the guy from the Christmas Story?" Oh yeah, tonight was fun. It was great seeing him react to all that. Last Action Hero has a lot more adult humor than I remember being in it for a PG-13 movie, but it was good. Yeah.
It's funny how much PG-13 has changed, like what it means. Like, you know, you look at like Gremlins. Gremlins would have been a PG-13 movie if that existed. And then it's treated a little bit different. It was like, okay, it's not quite hard enough to go R. Now it's like, let's shift it a little bit closer to PG than shift it to R. It's almost like that little shift has went more that way.
That and the whole, like, the world used to hinge on, is there one F word or 2? And if there's 2, then it's an R.
Well, you know, I just watched one the other day, and I got to look up what it was because I was looking up some trivia about it, and it says the F word is used 5 times in this movie and still... it was $1 Million Baby. It's said like 5 times in the movie, and it's still PG-13. I think some directors just can get away. Like, I've always said that about, like, Fede when talk about his films. And I'm like, how does he not get an NC-17 with half of this stuff he does? And it's like, I think some directors just know how to talk to the MPA.
That very
like,
well
get them
be.
to, and just how to convince them, like, don't worry about it. It's fine.
I know that you and I beforehand, we said there was no news to talk about, but have you heard about any of the drama going on with Dark Force Entertainment this week?
I mean, it seems like anytime I hear about Dark Force Entertainment, I hear something controversial. I don't know what this one is specifically talking about, so you might run it down for me.
As Matthew in the chat says, I was in one of the Demon Dave live chat on Facebook, which are always just hilarious. He's in there, and I don't want to say too much negative, but he seems like he's on some substances, live threatening pretty much everybody in the physical media world. We're talking Grindhouse Video, Diabolic DVD, but most of all, Synapse Films. And I mean, he is sharing literally a picture of a tank on Facebook with the words Dark Force transposed over it, with all of the other labels behind them, like in the rubble of this war that's happening. And what it says here is Dark Force versus Synapse 2024. This should be an easy win for Dark Force, but wars are expensive, and now you can participate and benefit. So we don't even know the details of this war that is happening, but supposedly Dark Force has happened upon the original camera negative of one of the best films of all time. And I don't know, whoops, did not mean to click that. I don't know how much people know about it, so I don't want to spoil the film or anything like that, even though it is absolutely amazing. But it is one that has been languishing and supposedly been working on by Synapse, and that is Just Before Dawn. Absolutely love Just Before Dawn. In fact, I think that's an Appalachian film, is it not?
I'd have to, I haven't seen it in so long. It might be.
I think it is. So basically, Synapse is supposedly working on a 4K restoration of this, and Dark Force happened to have the OCN. Don't know all the details, but they're claiming that there's a lawsuit, and they've shared pictures of the front of legal filings. It is
Oregon, by the way, just before I forget.
Oregon, okay. Yeah. Dang.
Closer to you than me.
Yep. I definitely thought it was over there. So we don't have any details yet. This is just Demon Dave being Demon Dave. I have never been able to take him seriously. I feel like their product has never been great, so I've never paid a lot of attention to them. But this is the situation in the world right now. Everybody's waiting to see what he's going to do. I was in the chat over there because I think it would be hilarious in the midst of this controversy to try to get an interview with the Demon Dave DeFalco on the show. Who knows if that will ever happen, but I think it would be rather funny.
I feel like Keno is really thankful because they were getting all that drama about a week ago, and now it's like, not on us. We're good. We can just back away now.
Stan Geezy wants to know how many fucks can we say during this episode of Reconnected.
Only one, and he just used it, so we're done for the night.
Oh, man. Big Disc says, I grew up in an Irish Catholic family with 4 brothers. Foul language to the extreme. Nothing explicit language-wise can shock me. Oh, man. And
I need to tell you this about Conclave now we were talking about rating. So that movie's rated PG, which is hilarious to me just because it's kids aren't going to watch that movie. But the trailer package is nothing but kids' movies. So, of course, me and my girlfriend are in there watching it. I'm 30, she's 29. We are by far the youngest people in that theater, and by like 30 years. And it's like, yes, this is what these people need to be advertised. Dog Man.
The boomers want to see Moana 2. Oh, man. Yeah, that's a really weird way to sell that. Huh.
Yeah, it's just like, it's PG movie. Just put the PG trailer package in front of it.
I don't think that's how that works, but I guess whatever.
I don't know. It was odd going in there. I'm like, this is not for anybody in here.
Oh, Dog Man. I'm sure my kid's going to force me to go see that.
Good luck.
All right. Are we ready for some announcements?
Yeah, let's do it.
First up, Arrow Video is having the sale of the week because they have a sale every week. This time it is through MVD Entertainment Group in the U.S. They are on sale now all the way through November 18th. But as usual, Arrow US titles are not super well discounted. Pretty much everything ends up right around $20, which you can find those prices on Amazon. 4Ks end up around 25-ish. Box sets are like 40, 45. That's pretty much typical Amazon sales prices. So not much of a sale.
I guess it's in that same idea as like a barn sale for Criterion. Like it's a little cheaper.
Right.
But is it super? I mean, I like the barn sale just so I don't have to buy from Amazon, but It's not.
At
It's
least
usually just like $4 or $5.
At least with Criterion, it's always, here's 30% off. And then you can at least say, well, I know in 2 months it'll be 20% more, so maybe I can wait. With Arrow, it's like, oh no, this is the cheapest it'll ever get.
Yeah.
So that is that. We're going to go to probably some of the biggest news of the week next already. And that is, we had talked about these before, but we got details for Severin's Russ Meyer trilogy that they're putting out. So these are able to be pre-ordered now. Each of them are getting a 4K release and a Blu-ray release. This first one is Vixen from 1968. We have archival audio commentary with Russ Meyer on here. We got an audio commentary with Erica Gavitt. And then the Blu-ray disc has a whole bunch of stuff on it. We got some interviews, some audio commentaries. We've got David Del Val's The Sinister Image with guest Russ Meyer and Yvette Vickers. Entertainment or Obscenity from Mark Edward Hook on the film's historic Cincinnati censorship battles. Lots of stuff coming on these. Important to note, too, you can buy these on the Severin UK site as well, not just the Severin US site. It's a big difference. Let's go to the next one. And, probably should say, they plan on these shipping alongside the Black Friday titles if you order from their website. If you order widely from anyone else like Amazon or Diabolic or something, those should be shipping in January. And I don't see anywhere that says these slipcovers are site exclusive, so you should be able to get them from anywhere else. We were mentioning Russ Meyer a little bit before we went live, and you've not seen any of their titles. Is that right?
That's correct. When I hear Russ Meyer, I just think of no one who's not seen The Simpsons is not going to get any of this. So the guy who created Itchy and Scratchy or stole the idea for it, his is something Meyer. So when I hear Russ Meyer, that's all I think about is the guy who created Itchy and Scratchy, allegedly. Yep. So that's my only basis. And the fact that I thought they were pornography. But so, yeah. I mean, I don't know much at all.
There's a lot of nudity, but it's mostly just look at these knockers. Matthew Hennig has the question. AGFA posted a Black Christmas trailer on YouTube today. Does that mean anything, or do they just post random trailers? It's not just that they post random trailers, but AGFA actually has a huge amount of theatrical rights. So they probably have Black Christmas in their theatrical bundles that people can rent from them to play at any theater. So
I'm guessing it's not 2006. So
no, it's the original. I know. So this second one is Super Vixens. This is from 1975. Again, we've got audio commentaries with Russ Meyer, Erica Gavin, and a bunch of other individuals. Lots of stuff going on. Good extras. Then the third one is Beneath the Valley of the Ultra Vixens. This is from 1979, which is a lot of people's favorite of these three. If you're looking to get one to test them out, maybe this might be the first one to see if you want to dive a little deeper. Otherwise, I mean, you might.
Will I not lose the plot? Will I not be lost of missing the first two?
No, not even a little bit. You definitely might want to try one of them out before you buy them. And the big thing, I guess, is these are three different titles. And if you get the 4K releases on the Severin site, these are $43 a piece. So just for three 4K releases of Russ Meyer films, it's $129. That's a lot.
My question is, does that cover actually have nudity on it, or did they just hide it just barely? I can't actually tell.
There is no nudity on this cover.
That's actually impressive. Okay. Yeah, I'm very impressed. For a second, it's like you're going to get demonetized on here. Be careful.
They do a very good job with that. And honestly, Russ Meyer did a good job with that for a lot of his stuff. And Brian disagrees, says this is not the place to start. But hey, I get it. Sibner says there will be a box set. I don't think so, to be honest. I don't know. I think this is the best way for them to make the most amount of money is selling all three individually. If you put all three of these in a box, I mean, what can you sell them for? Like $90?
I mean, has Severin been known to do that? I can't think of an example on my head that they later went to a box set, because
nope.
I feel like they could have done that last year with Michael. I'm going to mess up his last name. They did Cemetery Man. Suave, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I feel like they could have maybe did something there, even though they don't have stage fright, I guess.
If these do well and they can go back and get more titles from the Meyer estate, maybe potentially after a while they could do a box set of everything. But again, if you do a 4K of all of his films, That's a very pricey box set. We're talking hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars. That's a lot.
Wait till they do
on,
a Roger Corman Presents box.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, that would be wild. Brendan, thanks for bringing this up. Hamilton Books put some new stuff up this week, and there is a ton of Mondo titles for only $11.95. Definitely suggest going to check those out. All right, that is
did a Hamilton book thing. I guess I did that like a month ago. I ended up with like 16 or 17 movies. Nice. It was like $100. I was like, yeah, that's. I was trying to just like how close can I get to 100 for the free shipping? And I hit that, and I'm like, cool, I'm done.
Well, do they have free shipping now? I don't think they did.
Oh before. Wait, maybe I'm thinking of another order I did. I could be. I ordered two things the same. Maybe it wasn't that one. Maybe they don't. No, they just have. You're right. It was something else that recently I'd get like right at $100, and it was just right over the free shipping. About a month ago. I don't know. I'll think of it later now. But I was very proud of myself because it was like $100 for free shipping, and it was like $100.36. I was like, perfect.
Yeah, I think Hamilton Books is always $4 shipping.
That might be what it is. I was looking at my orders when I did. I was like, man, I haven't ordered from Hamilton in like 3 years. And I was kind of disappointed. I was waiting on like the really long box that they used to send out. Like it would just be a cardboard box about a foot long that had my movies in. I didn't get that. I was a little disappointed.
Did you get the Tootsie Roll thing that you unroll in the middle and pop in half?
Yeah.
Brian says Super Vixens is the place to start if you're getting just one. So that makes sense. Right. Continuing on. They also have some bundles. Well, bundle.
Are they still here?
This first one, which was only limited to 80, is long gone. This sold out just a couple hours after they went live. And the big thing here is there was... there's a ton of stuff here, as you can see. There's Erica Gavin signed VHS sleeves. There's multiple VHS labels, some CD soundtracks, LP vinyl. This one, though, at $219 is limited to $450, which does also include an Erica Gavin signed Vixen VHS sleeve, if that's what you're after. This is still in stock, although it is getting very close to the end of this one. They sent out an email today saying they're getting very low, so you may want to check them out if you are into it.
Does the cart thing still work on Severin, where you can like see how many you can fit in a cart and it'll tell you?
Yes, but this one is funky because they have t-shirt sizes and they have allocations for each size.
So yeah, there's no good way to do it. Okay.
Yeah, and you could add them up, I think, but yeah.
Yeah, that's too much work for me to do live. Sorry, guys.
Going to our next stuff. Hey, this is really cool. I totally forgot this was this week. Just real quick, I never got to work in a video store, and I'd always wanted my own section. And somehow, Scarecrow Video in Seattle has a disc-connected section in their store. I got to choose all the titles that they have listed. I've got a couple quotes on there. If you're near Scarecrow, if you travel to Seattle in the next couple months, because this is likely not going to be up forever, but just for a little temporary time, I would love some pictures of people going in and seeing this. This would be great. My sister's going to check it out soon since she lives in Seattle, but I am just thrilled beyond belief that I had the opportunity to do something like this, and I left this purposefully on a film that we both love, Ravenous.
I was happy to see that. You know, you have a lot more restraint than me. If somebody came up and asked me, I'm going to do a display, tell me the movies you want on here, I would just start picking about every terrible film I can think of.
Right.
Every one of them.
Paul says, woo, Scarecrow Video. Wish I'd worked at a video store too. Those near me were closing as I was looking for work. That is basically exactly what mine was. I grew up in such a small town. I just didn't have a chance to do it at that age, unfortunately. They were like two people working, and they had been there for 15 years, so I was never going to break into that.
My sister worked at a movie gallery for like 2 or 3 years until they went out of business, which was nice because family got like free rentals all the time, so it was awesome. I watched that. Yeah, I watched a stupid amount of stuff for a long time. And then Redbox was 99 cents, and that's all she wrote.
Chris says he's 2.5 miles away. We'll have to check it out. Nice. And yeah, Stan was a video store manager quite a long time ago. Brendan says mine would be 10 copies of things.
See, he's got the right idea. No.
Next.
But also 1 copy of Hands of Fate. Gotta have just one copy between the 10.
Well, and I don't know if I went far enough to show it. It's in there somewhere. Let me see if I can see it real quick. I mentioned it. Oh, there it is. I mentioned it in the write-up. I had to put in next to Lady Snowblood is Major Pain. Major Pain is the first movie I ever watched with my wife.
Oh, that's nice.
That's the only reason it's there. Coming soon from Kino is Nate and Hayes from 1983 with Tommy Lee Jones, Michael O'Keefe, and Jenny Seagrove. Never seen this one. I know a lot of people like it. I would love to see it for sure.
Yeah, I've never. What year did it say it came out?
83.
Okay.
Yeah, 83.
Yeah, I've never seen this one.
Quite a long time ago. Going to our next one, and we got a lot of keynotes to discuss tonight too. December 16th on Blu-ray in the UK, Second Run is putting out 3 Wishes for Cinderella from 73. This is a reworking of the classic Cinderella, and it is supposedly beautiful. Never had the chance to see this. I definitely want to check it out. This used to be shown on TV throughout Europe all the time, including as a dubbed BBC serial in the 70s. This one has a brand new 4K restoration by the Czech National Film Archive, an expansive film depreciation by writer-producer and film historian Michael Brook. He is commenting on all of my social media here that he just updated it. He had done this a few years ago, and he went through and made sure that the quality was better. He did it a long time ago for their DVD release, and now that it's been updated, he updated his as well. So you get some new stuff on here, and it looks like a great release. Tim Lucas wrote for the booklet. I mean, this seems like a no-brainer. Don't forget, all Second Run titles so far have been region-free, so check it out.
I might get that. My girlfriend's got an obsession with Cinderella. Like, her favorite movie's Ever After and the 50 Cinderella. So I might grab that for her just to throw in as a gift or something. That sounds nice. Sounds pretty cool. Nice.
And the best thing is if you wait until an Arrow UK sale, you can usually get Second Run stuff for literally like $10.
Cool. Good stocking stuffer.
Exactly. Dark Sanctuary, the story of the church from 2024 is getting a January 21st Blu-ray and DVD release from Cleopatra Records. This is a documentary about the infamous Dallas Goth Club and the community of artists and outsiders that called it home. This sounds great. This isn't really one that I would normally post about, but it sounds like a really great documentary, and I definitely need to check this out. Major Pain is too artsy-fartsy for Matthew. I totally get it. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be pretentious. By the way, if you are ever making the change over to Blue Sky, I am over there now as well. I'll continue with Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and all that stuff, but I'm over there also. December 10th, BBC is releasing a Blu-ray of Doctor Who, the 60th anniversary specials from 2023. I believe this is a direct port of the UK release that they had of this, which is a pretty solid release. I mean, this is a 3-disc set with all kinds of special features on here. And if you've got some of the older releases, you are missing stuff from these discs, so check it out. Are you a Doctor Who person? We've never talked about that.
I think I watched the Christopher Eccleston season when I was in high school, and then when they changed him out, I don't know. I just lost all interest and never got any further.
I think I've ever seen one full episode of Doctor Who, and just no thanks.
I feel like if I liked it as a kid, it would be different because, like, I'm rewatching Buffy, and that's my nostalgia. I can totally get if somebody didn't care about it now, but that's mine.
Big Disc Energy wants to know, does anyone know why the Cohen Media Group Blu-rays are exclusive to Kino's site? Kino is their distributor, so they put all of their discs out. I don't think they're exclusive because a couple of them have shown up elsewhere. However, I can just say from experience, they don't sell super well. So I'm willing to bet that a lot of the other retailers just don't choose to sell them because they don't sell well. But I bet if you asked, like if you emailed Diabolic or Orbit or Grindhouse or Atomic, they'd probably be willing to order one from Kino for you if that's what you wanted to do. But at that point, just order from Kino. Although I guess if you're overseas, that doesn't work because Kino won't send to you. So you may want to order it to.
Do they not have do they not do international at all? I didn't realize that.
Kino does not, no. I think they do. Well, I think they do some Canada.
Okay.
It's the same thing with Shout Factory. Shout Factory doesn't do international other than Canada either. Don't know why, because they could, obviously.
Yeah, especially at their size. I don't see why they wouldn't. Besides, I guess, unless they just, I guess it's in their contract and stuff, right? Isn't that a whole thing where they can't, like, whether they can sell overseas or not?
Right.
Yeah.
Kino is releasing soundtrack to a coup d'etat from 2024. This is coming on January 7th on Blu-ray. This is a documentary, and you can check this out soon. No bonus features other than a Q&A panel with the director and a couple trailers. But honestly, the Q&A panel sounds pretty good. This documentary says United Nations 1960, the Global South ignites a political earthquake. Jazz musicians Abby Lincoln and Max Roach crash the Security Council. Nikita Khrushchev bangs his shoe and the U.S. State Department swings into action, sending jazz ambassador Louis Armstrong to Congo to deflect attention from the CIA back coup. Director Johan Grimpenprez captures the moment when African politics and American jazz collided in this magnificent essay film, a riveting historical roller coaster that illuminates the political machinations behind the 1961 assassination of Congo's leader, Patrice Lumumba. That sounds super interesting to me.
Yeah, I would definitely watch it. I've never heard of it. Is it a newer documentary that's being put out, or is it an older one they've redone?
Brand new documentary.
Okay, interesting. Okay.
Next up is from 1988, Let's Get Lost, coming from Kino Lorber on January 7th as well. This is a brand new 4K restoration, and if you like jazz and are interested in that last doc, you may want to check this out too. This is traveling with the elusive jazz vocalist and trumpeter Chet Baker. Bruce Weber weaves together the life story of a jazz great. This will have some short films by Bruce Weber on it as well, and this is a must for me in the future.
Big jazz guy?
I appreciate the history behind jazz, and I was in jazz band in high school, and I don't listen to it as much anymore, but just the stories behind it is great. Reservoir Fella 88. I'm not seeing. Oh, I do see it now. Got it. Thank you.
I missed it.
Happily to delete comments that are promoting something that I do not agree with. Thank you, Reservoir Fella 88. This pair of Kino title is definitely getting my attention. Yeah, that seems like a Terry thing. Los Angeles Plays Itself, definitely one that people should check out if they never have. Going to our next one, Hannah K is getting a Blu-ray release from Kino soon. This is from 1983. This is a brand new 2K scan of the 35mm Inter Positive. I have never seen this one, and I know nothing about it.
I recognize the director's name. I think that's the director, maybe. Yeah, I think I recognize that. That's about it.
All right. If there are any other comments, please let me know, because I believe I deleted all of them. They also got banned. Thank you. Goldie Hawn and Chevy Chase in Foul Play is coming soon on 4K to Kino Lorber. I am mystified that they're putting this out on 4K, and they only did Fletch on Blu-ray.
Next, it's going to be Memoirs of an Invisible Man on 4K.
Well, that's a Shout Factory thing, and since it's Carpenter, probably.
Man, that'd be well, yeah. Village of the Damned got it, so absolutely, it'll happen.
Oh man, yeah, this will look good, I'm sure, but definitely a weird choice from Kino. And the next one, Delicatessen was the first Black Friday title revealed from Severin. This got revealed that it was coming a couple months ago in their pop-up film festival that they do. But we got some details and a slipcover and sleeve art here. This is coming on 4K. This will be available in just a couple weeks, and it's going to have 6 hours of special features. This is the first time it's been on 4K in the States. This was released on 4K from Studio Canal just a couple of years ago, though. We got an audio commentary with the co-director on this one, and then some interviews and some interview with Terry Gilliam on this as well. Blu-ray disc 2, this is the third disc in this 3-disc set, is going to have a retrospective, some interviews, some archival items, and then a short film as well with an exclusive booklet by Claire Donner of the Miskatonic Institute of Horror Studies. Delicatessen, have you seen this one?
No, it's funny. I have a Amazon wish list that I've had 10 years now, and that one has been on there forever for me to order it. Whoever put it out before, still haven't seen it. Just kept getting passed over.
Yeah, this is a cannibal comedy. I have somebody asking, am I good to eat during Delicatessen? I mean, you can. Are you going to be happy? I mean, I don't know.
Just a barbecue, man.
Yeah, this is a great movie, and if you've never seen it, this is a great time to pick it up. But of course, this is not going to be on sale during the Black Friday sale, so you may want to wait in the future to pick it up then. The Beast of Walton Street from 2023 is getting a Blu-ray release from Screen Team Releasing, which is an indie horror studio that puts out their own stuff. These are pressed and all that. This is going to have an audio commentary, some character-hosted menus, making of reel, deleted extended scenes, a music video, and this will be a region-free disc, and you can buy it now. You can also buy an autographed version if you'd like. Check it out on their website. Always love some Christmas horror movies.
Me too. It's at this point, I don't. December's just become October for me, just colder.
How'd you feel about Terrifier 3 this year?
Oh, okay. So Terrifier, so I absolutely despise Terrifier 1. I think it's terrible. Terrifier 2 I liked. I actually really appreciated the fantasy slasher thing. I thought that really made it unique. I thought the final girl in that it's not Sierra, is it? I'm trying to think of her name. Something like Sierra or something. Whatever her name is, I can't remember. She's really good in it. The actress is great. I was really impressed. They went from some of the most vapid characters I've ever seen in a slasher film that made Friday the 13th characters look like super geniuses. To that, which I thought was very impressive. Even at the 2.5 hours, I thought it actually flowed pretty well. 3 was a little bit of a step back for me. I liked this. This is going to be my hot take of the night, hopefully. So I got to get one in. I think David Howard Thornton does a fantastic job in a performance. I don't think Art the Clown is that good of a character. Like, I don't find him interesting. I don't really like his design all that much. And he feels like kind of the weak point in the movie that surrounds it. And I thought Terrifier 3 just felt like more like All Hallows Eve. Like that, where the wraparound story is just that plot that just keeps getting in the way.
Right.
So, I like the second one. I thought the third one was okay. I'm curious where they go with the fourth one. But they're both head over shoulders better than whatever the first one was.
And funny enough, I think I like the first one the best.
Really? Yeah. It's one of those ones I feel so bad about because I'm happy for the series. Like, I'm super happy for it. Like, people spending all this money to go see a Grindhouse movie in the theaters is awesome. Like, that is so cool. I wish I loved them as much as a lot of people do. Have you seen the third one yet?
I have. Saw it in the theater. I had to. I wasn't going to miss that opportunity. And I can't even explain it. I don't even like the first one all that much. I think that they're all pretty rough. I think that the first one had like no plot. It was just tension, basically, which is why I liked it. But then the second one and the third one, it's like they're trying to shovel so much plot into every single scene that just does not need it.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think he kind of overcorrected into being very, very plot heavy. But I can kind of deal with that. It reminds me of, I guess, Nightbreed is kind of what I always compare the second one to. This like weird. There's a slasher that doesn't make any sense why it's in this movie, but cool. That's neat. It's a neat little way to do setting. I do think a big issue I have is I think the special effects are well done. I don't like them though. I don't know. I don't like how gooey everything is. Like it doesn't make it feel real to me. I'm just like, okay, that's cool looking. Not doing much for me though.
Gooey is a great adjective. By the way, wasn't going to tease this too much, but launching either tomorrow or Saturday is the newest issue of the Physical Media Advocate, and I want to shout out Daniel Sibner, who was on here and did the first Disconnected Mad Libs, who inspired. There is a Mad Libs in this newest issue of the Physical Media Advocate, and it's pretty damn funny. I think you should check it out when it comes out.
I absolutely will.
Willow, the 1988 fantasy film, is getting a 4K standard and steelbook release from Disney. This is pretty cool to see them dipping into the catalog again. However, it's Disney, so it's not always great news. This release is based on the 2010 4K restoration, so it's a 14-year-old restoration. This will have HDR10 instead of Dolby Vision, which pretty much all of their recent 4Ks have had. Then there's going to be no new bonus features on the 4K disc, though the Blu-ray should carry over the archival content. I'm glad this is coming, but also, if you're going to release this, how do you not announce the TV show at the same time?
You know, I'm wondering if they're just burying that because poor Ralph Ineson has like lost half of his career now because he got so injured on that show. They're just like, we don't need to talk about it. It's fine. We did our payout. We're good.
Pulp says, just want to say I'm so happy to be here. Great show. Great to be able to sit here and listen to you guys read comments. Cannot sleep these days. Sorry about the sleep. Stan doesn't love Willow. Neither do I, Stan. Silent Mandible, what is Dolby? It's visual and audio. There's two different formats there. We have Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos. Dolby Vision is a much more expanded color palette. HDR10 has an exponentially lower amount of colors that they can display. But honestly, a lot of people, because they weren't filming for Dolby Vision for when most of these were created, they feel like going into Dolby Vision sometimes is unrealistic compared to what they shot, and also a little too bright sometimes, so they don't want that in there. Dolby Atmos is the enhanced surround sound. So you've got your center speaker, your fronts, your around, your behind, but also it's 7.1.2 is the what you normally go for, and those 0.2 at the end are in the ceiling above you, so it's all over around you.
Now, I can't remember because I was looking at building a sound system. When you do, there's a cheat for the ceiling ones, right? Where you can do the angled ones like on the side. Yep. Does that count as true Atmos at that point, or is it just kind of like a faux Atmos?
It is. It is a faux Atmos, but there's actually some cheap sound bars that do the whole thing themselves. They've got some angled up to bounce, and it's literally just that one center sound bar in the front. So it's basically like balling on a budget. It's the best way to get a faux Dolby Atmos full surround sound for literally, like, some of them are only like $100-$150.
I'm always amazed that they're, and this isn't judging, budgets are a big thing, but the way how bad like TV speakers are, I'm always amazed when somebody doesn't at least have a sound bar. I'm like, right. The audio and television is terrible. I can't hear anything. I tried it on mine one time. I can't remember why. I think I was testing something. I was like, this is terrible.
I still only use my TV right now.
I just, and maybe that's the pretentious audio part of me, like, for that. So no one listened to me, but I was just like, man, I'd have to have a sound bar. Maybe I'm spoiled.
It kills me, but the only reason we did it is because we had young kids, and I mean, there's so many things. Like I was down here. I think we were down here recording something, and I went upstairs with my wife, and we found this was like 3 years ago. We found our oldest with a toy wooden hammer, just banging the living shit out of our windowsill. And I go up there and there's divots the whole way. I'm like, yeah, if I'd paid a whole bunch for a sound system and they like ripped something off the wall or something, I would be pissed. But now they're old enough, they probably wouldn't do anything now. Let's see. Craig says, check out the Axiom QS surround speakers. They're amazing. Nice. And I love this question, Matthew. Would it be evil to request a new commentary track from Val Kilmer? Evil? No. Unethical? Maybe slightly. All right. That's enough Willow. Azrael is coming to Blu-ray from Shudder on January 21st. No word on bonus features or anything yet.
Huh,
Did you watch
no
this
word.
one?
That's funny.
I'm sure you've seen this one now.
I have. I watched it during October. I enjoy it. I'm a big Simon Barrett fan. I really like him as a writer. I like him as a director. I thought Seance was a really underappreciated movie. I think it came out in 2021. I'd like to see him direct more. But I think this movie's cool. I want to rewatch it because you want to talk about a movie not hand-holding anything. This one does not. And I appreciate it, but it also means I was kind of lost for part of it. But it's intriguing. It's an intriguing movie, even though you don't you're not going to learn a whole lot about what's going on.
Right.
They stick to it. I appreciate that.
I'm very eager to see this. However, I don't have Shudder anymore. So I'm waiting for the Blu-ray release.
Which is when?
January 21st.
Oh, okay.
Not too long now. Saturday Night from just this year is coming to Blu-ray from Sony on January 7th. This will have a making of, and it will have a filmmaker commentary and more. I see a lot of people upset this is not getting a 4K on day one, which I totally understand. I don't know. Did you see this movie yet?
I did. I saw it in theaters.
How do you feel?
It's funnier than 99% of Saturday Night Live episodes. So, I think that's a success. But no, in all honesty, I enjoyed it. I think it felt kind of like Uncut Gems, but not nearly as dire at the end. So I kind of like the pace. I think the cast did really well with what they were given. I know there's been some issues with that, but when you're going that fast pace, you're hitting just kind of certain beats, and that's going to take a hit. But I really enjoyed it for what it was.
Yeah, I definitely want to see this one. I'm curious if Sony will release a 4K eventually. Sony isn't really one to not do a 4K.
Well, you got to get the Columbia Classics Volume 6, and then you can go.
After how this one did in the theater, I don't know if they're going to call this one a classic anytime soon. Oh man, yeah, this cover, I see it getting a lot of comments in the chat. This is really great. Super throwback, very like 70s, 80s style. Very happy to see this. I'm just glad it's not, I mean, hilariously, as I'm about to say, it's not floating heads. It's not the modern floating head style, even though it is a bunch of bodies just floating in the air. But it looks great. Absolutely looks great.
I mean, if you're going to do floating head, at least do something, interesting with it. And I think that's
right.
I think that's all people want. It doesn't need to look like, an intern made this in about 10 minutes.
Yeah. And this, I mean, you can tell this definitely took a lot longer than 10 minutes. That's right.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, that is Saturday Night. The next title from Severin is Eaten Alive. This is the Umberto Lenzi title from 1980, coming on 4K as part of their Black Friday sale. This is going to have an audio commentary with Nathaniel Thompson and Troy Howarth. This is going to have some other extras, like an interview with Lenzi, an exclusive discussion of cannibal films between Diodato and Lenzi. It's going to have a feature doc on the Queen of Cannibal movies. That's Mimi Lai. There is an interview with the production designer Antonello Galang, interview with a couple actors, 2013 Q&A, newly discovered alternate footage, and then a booklet by Claire Donner of the Miskatonic Institute again. Cannibal films. How do you feel about cannibal films?
I like them. Like, I won't sit here and say I've seen a bunch of them, but I mean, I'm a big fan of Cannibal Holocaust. Like, I understand the controversy around it, and I agree with it. I don't think, animals should die for entertainment if we can avoid it. I think that's, I think I can safely put my flag there, but I can also feel the need to take the movie as it was in the time period it came out. And, I can sit there and say that was probably not a good thing to do, but I really do like the movie a lot. And I mean, I'm at the point where I even liked Green Inferno. It's not good, but I enjoy it for what it is. I like the throwback. I haven't seen Eaten Alive. I was actually, I kept hearing you guys see it in chat, and I was like, oh man, the Toby Hooper film is going to get a Severin 4K. That sounds great. And then I'm like, oh, it's not that one. No,
I've only seen Eaten Alive, I think, twice. The Hooper Eaten Alive twice, and the first time it just didn't sit with me because I just wasn't steeped in a lot of this style of film yet. But man, the the second time I watched it, I loved so much more about that movie. And it's so funny because everything, like the soundstage itself, is almost visible in many of those hotel shots. It's such a unique film.
It's it's very dreamlike. It's it's such an interesting way to go after Massacre, to go that direction. It's like has enough of the DNA from it, but it still feels so unique from it. But yeah, I mean, Hooper being underappreciated in his time is a tale as old as time. So, unfortunately,
absolutely. And Stan, who is close with Toby Hooper, says Hooper is Eaten Alive is terribly underrated. It truly is. Moving right along, Murder at the Orient, wrong one. Murder by Decree. Don't know why I'm going to Murder at the Orient Express. Murder by Decree, getting a 4K release from Kino on January 14th. Now, this is one I'm actually rather curious to see because this is a brand new SDR master by Studio Canal, and the Blu-ray that Kino did for this is just simply put not that great. It's rather muddled. I definitely want to see this get a better release. And this is a great movie. I mean, just the names alone in this should make you want to see this, with Christopher Plummer, James Mason, Donald Sutherland, and more than that, obviously. But it's a great mystery story, and it's directed by Bob Clark. I mean, we already talked about Black Christmas. This is a Bob Clark classic. Again, this looks great. I'm definitely very curious about getting this one in a sale soon.
Kino gets a lot of old Sutherland films, it feels like, because they got the what's that Crichton film, The Great Train Robbery. I think did they get that one? Yeah.
Stan says a real outlier for Bob Clark. You can kind of say that about every.
I was about to say that he didn't. It's like Soderbergh in that sense. Like, he just did whatever.
Oh, man. Speaking of Cohen Media Group earlier, January 14th, they are releasing My Name is Alfred Hitchcock. This is a 2022 film that is done by the one and only Mark Cousins. Love him or hate him. I know a lot of people can't stand his voice. This is one that you might want to check out. The way they did this is rather interesting as well. They took his recorded voice and had him use his own voice to rewatch his films. And that is done as a trip through his filmography, his silent films, the films of the 50s and 60s, and everything after that. It sounds like an interesting idea. I'm curious to check it out. But yeah, Cousins is very odd for some people.
I have no basis. I don't know anything about him. This is the first time I've heard of him.
He has the one that he did is it the story film or the history film, the long documentary, and for a lot of people his voice is like fingernails on chalkboard. It's bad.
It's bad if it's like you said it's a long documentary?
Oh yeah, it's hours and hours.
so it's like Daniel Farron's Memoirs of Crystal Lake or Never Sleep Again. It's like 4 or 5 hours long.
I think it's even longer.
Oh my God.
Because if I remember it, I think it was done as a series. So yeah, I think there's definitely more hours into that one. But next up, The Spiral Road from Kino, getting a Blu-ray release on January 14th with Rock Hudson, Burl Ives, Jenna Rollins. New audio commentary by Sam Deegan on this one. Very curious to hear that commentary. Oh, man. See, Paul Berryman says it's 13 hours.
Nothing. There's no one subject I can listen to for 13 hours.
It's like the complete history of film, though.
Just everything. Like, they should have got, what's that guy on YouTube? Is it Bill Wirtz? The guy who does the history of the world, I guess, and the history of man, I guess. Yeah, get him to do it.
Okay, another Kino, That Funny Feeling from 1965. This is coming on Blu-ray on January 14th. We got Bobby Darin, Sandra Dee. I bet this is going to look really good on Blu-ray. We got an audio commentary by Julie Kurgo and Peter Hankoff on here, which I believe means this was probably a Twilight Time title previously. Let me see. Oh, maybe not.
I was about to ask if we got through all their old titles yet. I feel like we've gotten through a good chunk by now.
We've gotten through most of them, but certainly not all of them. I know that there's a couple like that God, what do they have? They had 8 heads in a duffel bag. They had, I think they had a Jackie Chan one too. Was it Drunken Master?
I feel like it was.
Yeah, some of those that I'm kind of surprised have not gotten a new release, but probably, Drunken Master probably will if that's the one that they had. That Funny Feeling, also a song by Bo Burnham that I've heard probably 30 times this week following last week's election results. January 14th, we are getting the Blu-ray release of Horror from Kino that was announced previously. This is Ken Russell's Horror, and this will be number 25 in the Kino cult line. What's interesting here is they did not get the extras from the imprint release. So
I thought they could just put those on there.
That was really good, Zach. Very nice. This was a really good release for imprint. I really enjoyed the extras on this, and I'm not saying these are going to be bad, of course. They got an audio commentary by Tim Lucas. Tim Lucas is one of the best of all time, maybe the best. They also got a new interview with the screenwriter Deborah Dalton. Tim Lucas also does video comparisons of the alt versions of this. I believe there are 4 alt versions of this film, including the theatrical, which is the NC-17. There is a lot to like in this movie. It's also not a very good movie.
It's the showgirls of that time.
Yeah, kind of, which is about the same time, funny enough.
Yeah.
That being said, I could totally see somebody liking this enough to double dip if you had the imprint. Not suggesting anybody needs to do that, but the extras specifically, you should absolutely check out the imprint extras if you get a chance to. It is great. Sibner wants to know, do we know what extras we're getting, or which versions we're getting? I believe all 4 are on here, and that's how he does the comparisons between them. And he was answering questions in my comments on Facebook, so I do think that is happening.
So who is going to finally break Warner Brothers to get us the Devils uncut? Like, who's going to do it? It's going to be Kino, isn't it?
They'll just take it and put it out.
Yeah, why not?
I honestly think this is going to be a hot take, but I do think it will happen in the next probably 4 years. And I think it will either be first Criterion or Studio Canal over in the UK. Or was it BFI or Studio Canal? That
BFI did the DVD. They could only do the DVD on that one, if I remember correctly.
So I think BFI and Criterion will have an opportunity to get it eventually. And honestly, it'll be something that will make a lot of us stoked, like, oh my gosh, it's finally happening. It will probably just make the smallest of waves to everyone else.
Well, I almost feel like they lost their opportunity. I remember when the Devils was making pretty big waves because there was a lot of rumors about it. And then Warner Brothers just wouldn't do anything. It's like there's some shame in like releasing. I was like, yeah, I get it when it came out, but it's not. I mean, it's shocking. It's just not that shocking.
Sibner says, I'm going to take a shot in the dark and say VS gets the Devils. I mean, they have to get anything from Warner Brothers before they can get the Devils. That would be wild to have that be their first title.
Limited to 2,000, sold out.
What's going on, Wave? Limited to 2,000, and it's a 4K, like 7-disc release that's $130, and it sells out in the first 12 minutes. Yeah,
that's it.
So yeah, the Devils. I could see it happening eventually.
I mean, I feel like with everything else with Ken Russell's gotten a really nice release, or at least a lot of it has. A lot of
the big ones, at least.
Yeah.
The hard part, and I don't know if there's any like major Ken Russell stands in the chat. I feel like he's got six movies that are like pretty good, at least, or better. The other stuff just does not jive with me at all.
Did we get Altered States? Who put that out?
It's just a Studio Blue.
Is it just okay? Okay, I figured somebody else would have got that.
I feel like that is begging for a really nice boutique release and like a good 4K restoration, because the blue, it looked good, but it wasn't like mind blowing or anything.
And then what was that? What do I forget? Is it Ted? Is that the name of the movie?
Ted.
No, what is it?
Oh, Tommy.
Tommy. Thank you. I knew it was a name.
Yeah,
I've never seen that one.
Tommy is a masterpiece. I agree with Paul there for sure. I think Lair of the White Worm is pretty great, which I believe that's the one with Hugh Grant that Sibner is talking about.
It is, and that's one of my favorites from him. Vestron had that one, I think. Yeah, Vestron.
And yeah, he's got a short in Trapped Ashes that I just showed earlier tonight. You can check that out from Deaf Crocodile. Yeah, that is the Ken Russell Power Hour on Reconnected. Going to our next title. It's the next Kino Cult title, and that is number 24, Invasion of the Bee Girls. Now, this had previously had a, I think, Shout Factory release. So this is yet another one of these Kino Cult re-releases. However, this has a new audio commentary with Alexandra Heller-Nicholas and Josh Nelson, which honestly would be very interesting to hear. I agree with Dallas. Dallas says Russell's work is either masterful or borderline unwatchable.
He swings it, man. That's Russell. He'll swing for the fences every time.
All right. Anchor Bay is releasing Abruptio from 2023 on Blu-ray and DVD on December 10th. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. This is supposedly okay. Rather weird, but okay. Supposedly this premiered here in Kansas City at the Panic Fest like a year ago almost, and glad they're releasing this. They've got a couple others coming out that I'm trying to find some details on right now that I would be announcing. Yeah, I'm curious to see this, but man, I noticed something weird. If you go on their website and you try to buy, I don't remember what the title is, one that we announced a couple weeks ago. If you buy the Blu-ray there, it's literally like $40 or $50. And if you go on Amazon, it's like $18.99. Exact same release, nothing special, no package of anything extra. Yeah.
That's odd. Like, why?
Very. Yeah. Look at that. KB's here. What's going on, KB? He says Abruptio is trippy, and I believe he saw it there at the Panic Fest when it premiered. Brian bought way too much thanks to me or someone else.
Do you ever have that on your See, Craig, do you ever have that on your conscience? Like when you start advertising this, like, man, somebody just blew like $1,000.
Yes, every week. And really it's just to keep people informed. But, you know, what you do with that information is up to you, I guess.
The blood on your hands, the divorces.
All right, so that is Anchor Bay's newest. Next one, we just talked about this a couple weeks ago, so we won't spend too much time on it other than asking Zach about it. But January 14th, we're getting a 4K of Reindeer Games. And as far as extras, nothing new. Nothing new. This is the 2000 film with Ben Affleck. Have you seen this one?
I have. Don't tell me this movie's getting like reevaluated now as like some Christmas masterpiece.
Not masterpiece, just Kino. Kino being Kino.
Okay, I was just saying. I was thinking this was like got some kind of like heat on Twitter, and now we have this because people are saying this is a good movie. This movie is dog shit. It is not good. Let's not pretend that this is some hidden masterpiece that we hated on for years.
Brian, jeez. Brian bought 24 Mondo titles from Hamilton Book. Well done, my friend. Well done. Has it got the unrated cut is the question from Mike. And yes, it does. However, it's only on Blu-ray. Now, before everybody starts complaining, reminder that releasing other cuts is rather difficult for studios to do on other formats that they did not license everybody for a couple reasons. One of the reasons is that there can be music cues that have been cleared in the theatrical version that are not there are different music cues in the other cuts that are not in the theatrical version, and if those aren't licensed, they could literally be sued just for releasing it, and they might not have all of that available or want to go sign the rights away to that because somebody's saying, oh, this is the only thing holding you back. I can charge you however much I want, and you are at my whim. The other big thing is in these other cuts, sometimes there are actors that didn't clear for things to be released on physical media because they weren't in the theatrical, so they have a say in that as well. So, yeah, a lot of times they can't choose to just put those out on new formats. Those have to be completely renegotiated.
But just so we're clear, I can still be bitter at Warner Brothers for not releasing the Dr. Sleep 4K director's cut, right? I can still be better.
Absolutely. That played in
Wonderful.
theaters, and they should be able to do that. Moving right along. 7. We finally got a release date and some updated information. January 7th is when we're getting 7 on 4K. This is the 1995 feature film of course. This is also the confirmed release date for the Steelbook. And this release is very interesting because it is going to be a folded package in a rigid slipcase. And it looks like some of the old like Digipack foldouts that we had way back in the DVD days.
I still probably have that DVD somewhere. The one that looks like a pack, like it looks like the box or whatever. I think I still have that somewhere.
Yeah, that was a fun release.
So are we just going to get every Fincher movie on 4K before they just finally give us Panic Room? Is that where we're at?
It's the last one. Yeah, I could see that happening.
Right, wonderful. I've been talking about it for like 10 years now, so great.
This question from Terry is great. Would this be a new trend for Kino? Coming soon titles getting release dates in the same calendar year? I don't know. Let's see if it happens more than twice. 7 is getting a new 4K restoration supervised by Fincher, and it's going to have HDR10, not Dolby Vision, like we mentioned earlier. But honestly, for a film like this, that is a pretty one-note color palette, it probably doesn't need it all that much. Some of the darker scenes will benefit from the HDR, but it definitely doesn't need like exhaustive oranges that are gorgeous on screen. So we'll see. We still have. Is it only 3 Fincher films that we need?
Alien. Let's see. Alien 3 hasn't gotten 4K yet, has it? Unless it's overseas. Nope. And then you have The Killer and Mank have not got 4K because they're Netflix. Gone Girl, does it have a 4K yet?
That is a good question. I don't remember.
I don't think Gone Girl got one.
Gone Girl does not have a 4K.
Benjamin Button, yeah, because that's Criterion, I guess.
That release is so odd. Yeah, there's a lot more than 3. There's got 5 or 6.
I guess about half. So I guess we're about halfway through.
Well, and we got the ones I wanted. So
must be nice.
Gone Girl would be great to have. That movie's amazing. And I've got Social Network. I know a lot of people don't have that one, but
I do too. Yeah, I can brag about that.
Next up is one that I have been dying to see this year.
It's good. You'll like it.
Rumors with a U is from this year, and it is coming to Blu-ray from Decal, which I'm not thrilled about. But hey, from Decal on January 21st, this is the Cate Blanchett movie with Alicia Vikander and a whole lot of like international great character actors. This is going to have a trailer on it, and that's it. But yeah, so this movie's good.
I like it. I really enjoyed it. Like, I think if I was more socially aware of current political climates, I would get more of the jokes, but the jokes are still funny even if I don't get them. So I think I always think that's a plus.
Yeah. From what I hear, this is an amazing Guy Madden piece.
It's definitely his most accessible. Like if somebody was going to start with Guy Madden, I would say here would probably be good because the movie is not incomprehensible of what even's going on.
That completely sounds like Guy Madden. Yeah.
Again, here we are.
January 7th, Walmart is releasing The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring 4K Steelbook. This is the exact same Steelbook that was in that big metal box that Best Buy released a few years ago that sold out very quickly. I don't know what to say at this point. Like, this is one of the most exploited non-horror titles on physical media. Maybe
I really wish one of these companies would get in on the joke and just release it every Groundhog's Day and just make people like gaslight people. Like, no, this didn't come out last year. This is new.
What would be even better is do it every year, but put like the shortest featurette brand new.
They literally just got like Elijah Wood in the street saying like 3 words. New interview with Elijah Woods.
Yeah, we forgot about Fight Club in the game when we were just talking about Fincher.
Okay, it might have actually been shorter to name which Fincher movies had a 4K. Zodiac, The Social Network. Was there more? 7 now.
Yeah, that's funny. The next Severin title that's a part of their Black Friday sale is another one that they'd announced at that pop-up film festival, and this is Rat's Night of Terror. This is the Bruno Mattei and Claudio Fragasso film. If you've never seen Rat's Night of Terror, this is a good movie. It is genuinely fun, really like off-the-wall ending that I think most people will like. It is pretty damn interesting. This is going to have a bunch of special features on here. We've got making of for this. We've got interview with Bruno Mattei, interview with a bunch of the actors and actresses. There's a retrospective making of for Hell of the Living Dead and Rat's Night of Terror with Claudio Fragasso and a bunch of other individuals. And then a Severin produced music video with Goretta, plus the soundtrack on CD. This looks to be a pretty incredible release for this film.
I'm actually excited to get it. I won't say too much because I can advertise and plug that we did an episode on Bruno Mattei. I don't remember what the other movie was, but I remember this one. This one I distinctly remember talking and watching.
If I can remember right, wasn't Will Dodson on the Bruno Mattei episode?
I believe so. Sounds familiar.
Yeah. Matthew, I don't know if I should answer that question because this covers a little bit of a spoiler.
Yeah.
Go watch the movie.
Yeah, I'm sure it's on Tubi. It's free, probably.
Then Umbrella got in on the game this week. March 5th are when all of these titles are coming out. This first one is the 4K release of Hardware from 1990. This is the Richard Stanley Hardware, the nuclear-scarred landscape film that a lot of people love. Has been released before by Scorpion, and Arrow was in talks to do this for a while until Stanley was canceled for a little while. This bundle, though, is pretty damn great if you are into this film. They've got an exclusive t-shirt designed by Hollowbone Studios, 150-page hardback book with never-before-seen behind-the-scenes experiences and art from Richard Stanley, 100-plus page softback book of the unreleased Hardware 2 Ground Zero script, a rigid slipcase, 8 art cards, poster, and all that fun stuff. But then, brand new HDR 4K remaster by Umbrella themselves, a new audio commentary by Richard Stanley himself as well, a archival commentary. We've got a making of new interview with Stephen Woolley, the producer, new visual essay by Bryn Tilley about Richard Stanley's bitter message of hope and grief, a new original storyboard featurette, and then a bunch of archival things, including some short films. If you're into Richard Stanley, this looks like a hell of a package.
I have a 5-disc set for Dust Devil, and it's a fantastic release.
Is that the German release of that one?
Yes. And I really have always wanted to see Hardware. I've still not seen it, so I might actually end up getting this.
It's good. It's definitely a good movie. It's very 90s, and it's very Richard Stanley. Like, if you've seen the other stuff you liked it, you would probably really like Hardware. It is a little bit, obviously very different from Color Out of Space, which was just kind of out of nowhere for him, but it's very 90s Richard Stanley. There is a Just the Movie release, of course, Reservoir Fella. You do not have to get everything else. And I think there's even a pared down like middle bundle that's a little more than just the movie and doesn't include the t-shirt. Because I will say this release is expensive. It's like $110 USD, I think. However, thinking about it, like it includes a t-shirt, first of all, which for some companies,
let's say $25
or $30. So we'll say that's even $80, something like that. Everything else in there, this hard box with 2 huge books, this is the definitive release, and they did the restoration themselves. So they've got to make the money on the restoration, obviously, or they're going to go out of business. I don't feel like this is overpriced, really. And I hate to say that about such an expensive package, but there's so much in this that, they're producing special features. They're restoring the film. It's a lot. Absolutely a lot.
Yeah, and for a movie that's... I feel like is this the first is this even a US Blu-ray release? Or
no, this is Australia 4K.
Australia. I know that's kind of been a wish list item for a lot of people for a long time, was Hardware. I seem to always remember that in circles hearing it. So yeah, if you're going to go big, go home.
Yeah, the Scorpion releasing, I think it was a 3-disc Blu-ray release that came out in the US. It sold out very quickly, and it was kind of like their release of Opera. It was one that was sought after for a long time. All right. Next from Umbrella is a Blu-ray release of Suburban Mayhem from 2006. This says, Katrina does what she wants, when she wants, manicured and manipulative. The teenage mother exists in a world defined by petty crime, seduction, sex, fast cars, and suburban mayhem. With her beloved brother Danny in prison for murder and John, her father, concerned about Katrina neglecting the baby, it's time for the 19-year-old to do something. Can you really get away with murder? This will have a 48-page book with behind-the-scenes experiences and art with essays, rigid slipcase, 8 cards, poster, and all that stuff. We've got some new interviews on this with the director, composer, producer, screenwriter, an audio commentary that was done previously, and then some old archival featurettes like a blooper reel. And then there's also a new Suburban Mayhem soundtrack composed by Mick Harvey. I've never seen this movie. Have you seen this one?
No, but I'm interested.
It sounds good.
I did like when you were reading off who's in the audio commentary, and I'm like, is that one person who did all those jobs, or is that actually 6 different people? And with this type of movie, it could go either way.
Yeah, the director, composer, producer, and screenwriter are 4 different people. That is
okay.
And the last title, kind of a light Umbrella month, considering they do like 5 or 6 sometimes. The third release, I'm assuming this is pronounced The Moogai, Moogai. This is coming on March 5th on Blu-ray from them, and this is part of their new Australian filmmakers line. This will have a behind the scenes and a trailer, plus if you get it from their web store, it will have a numbered slipcase with a 20-page booklet, and this one sounds pretty good. All of their new Australian filmmakers titles have been like genuinely pretty decent to check out. Thanks, Paul. I
did better than I would have done.
I feel very validated by an Australian, so I appreciate that. Almost done now, just a few left. Indicator is announcing new titles today. The first is Now and Forever from 1934 with Gary Cooper, Carol Lombard, and Shirley Temple. These are coming on February 17th in the UK only. No US releases again this month, and these are all Blu-ray releases. This one is going to have an audio commentary with Pamela Hutchinson. Christina Newland is doing a visual essay on Shirley Temple. There's a trailer, image gallery, new subs, of course, and then a limited edition booklet with new essays and some archival writing. Shirley Temple, you ever been into Shirley Temple stuff?
No. I know who she is, and I've seen clips, but that's about it.
I for some reason, I think it was because my family was like way distantly related to her in some way. Shirley Temple was huge in my house, so I've seen so many of her movies. I don't think I've seen this one though. Next up from them, another classic, Peter Ibbetson from 1935, getting a Blu-ray release. This is with Gary Cooper and Ann Harding. This will have an audio commentary by Adrian Martin. Jeff Andrews speaks on Peter Ibbetson, and we've got some radio plays, original trailers, Larry Karaszewski trailer commentary, and then a limited booklet with new essays, of course, and some archival writing. Solid releases from Indicator, usually. Next up on the docket, oh, look at that. My mom's in the chat. I didn't even know she was here tonight. Sivner says, who else is now picturing Shirley Temple standing next to me?
Honestly, the resemblance will be uncanny.
Joan Crawford and Wendell Corey in Harriet Craig is the next release from them. This is from 1950, based on the Pulitzer Prize-winning play Craig's Wife by George Kelly. This has an audio commentary with Glenn Kenny and Farron Smith name. Lise Lankman on Harriet Craig, the academic and film historian, discusses the making of Lux Radio Theater version, the Campbell Playhouse version of this as well. A limited booklet with Pamela Hutchinson writing, and then a look at the film's production. Again, pretty damn consistent on Indicator. Dallas says, I would wake up in a cold sweat to that loud-ass Shirley Temple box set commercial almost every night as a kid. I remember that as well. Don says, thanks for the heads up on Mondo at Hamilton. Picked up 14 titles and saved $252. God damn. People are going crazy for Mondo tonight. Ronnie, picturing me with Shirley Temple's curls. Oh, I love this.
Is there not a Snapchat filter you can use and you can like get the picture?
Donate $5 and it appears, whatever the TikTok thing is. Next up, Joan Crawford in Queen Bee from 1955. This is a supposedly great one. I'm definitely interested in this one. I think the most out of all of these. Audio commentary with David Jenkins on this. Lise Lankman again speaks on this one as well. Natalie Morris speaks on Jean-Louis. The film historian and curator explores the career. And then we've got new writing on this one, of course, with Imogen Sarah Smith, and then making a piece focusing on Crawford. That is Indicator. A lot of stuff coming from them.
And it's not important, but I just want to note that there are 2 movies with the word B in them. So, for what that's worth.
Oh, and speaking of today, The Beekeeper 2 got announced that it's going into production.
Yes. I will take any Jason Statham vehicle. I will watch them all.
Oh, man. Hilarious. And this is our last title, but again, for anybody that missed it the last time I harped on this like 3 or 4 times, I still find it absolutely amazing that Jason Statham has only ever made films that have gotten theatrical releases. Let that sink in. No made for TV, no direct to DVD, no streaming like that. Everything has gotten theatrical releases, which is astonishing. I don't know of any other actor that can say that.
And I mean, I'd actually think it would be like if he could ever get a theatrical release and he just retired, I'd respect it. I'd be like, yeah, cool. Go for it, man. You had your time in the sun.
Leave right now. Last announcement of the night. Severin releasing Slave of the Cannibal God from 1978. This is the worldwide 4K premiere. This will be available during their Black Friday sale. Now, again, this is an upgrade. Yeah, this is a good cover. This is another one that has been released previously on Blu-ray. And the hard part, I think it was Code Red release of this, had multiple cuts of the film, and Severin is not advertising the other cut of the film. So if you've got that old blue, you may want to hold on to it. Claire Donner does the audio commentary on this one. She's the one that did the writing and the booklets for the previous titles. We've got an interview with the director, Sergio Martino, interview with the camera operator, interview with the production designer, interview with Antonello Galang and special effects artist Paolo Ricci, archival interview with Stacy Keach, who's in this one. And this looks pretty good. I'm glad they're releasing this, glad they're upgrading, but also kind of odd that every single title announced so far for them is 4K upgrades for things that have previously gotten releases.
And how many more do they have to announce before they're done?
Six more titles.
Okay.
Yeah, we have only done 4, and they are releasing 10 titles for Black Friday.
Wonderful. Just be broke.
It's a lot, that's for sure. As usual, after we go over the announcements, we cover what is coming out next Tuesday in case you forgot and you want to get those at the last minute so they show up at your doorstep. Next week is the big week for the Terminator 4K, the original 1984 Terminator, which is getting decent reviews. There's some grain in the film and not all scrubbed out. Simple Plan 4K from Arrow. Godzilla -1 4K is getting its standard release. Terminator 4K Steelbook, North by Northwest 4K finally happening. Blazing Saddles 4K here in the US. Godzilla -1 4K. Beetlejuice getting this god awful looking Steelbook and standard.
Look, you can
release.
say that, but Blazing Saddles is right below it.
True.
It already looks better.
Yeah, we haven't gotten to that yet, but yes. The other one, I wasn't going to show this tonight, but the beautiful All the Haunts BRs Volume 2 releases next Tuesday. There's that. We've got the Blazing Saddles Steelbook. Funny Girl from Criterion. The Frank Capra at Columbia collection, which I'm still amazed that Sony's doing something like that. The Zaz Collection 4K with the Naked Gun, Top Secret, and Airplane. North by Northwest Steelbook Play Misty for Me 4K, Rush 4K from Shout, the Iger Sanction 4K from Kino, Two Mules for Sister Sarah 4K, House of the Dragon, the complete first season 4K releases next week. Little Women 4K, the one from 1994, which is most people watching this' favorite version of Little Women, probably. Speak No Evil, the one from this year, getting its Blu-ray release. Twilight of the Warriors Walled In, getting its 4K release. Tomy from Arrow, Japan Organized Crime Boss from Radiance. The really fancy special editions of Dark Crystal and Labyrinth and the Steelbooks are both getting their release next Tuesday. Star Trek The Motion Picture getting another Steelbook next week. The Sword from Eureka. Super Spies and Secret Lies, the Shaw Brothers spy films coming out. Killer's Game 4K Steelbook. That is, I think, an Amazon exclusive Steelbook for that one if you want it. Slap the Monster on Page 1 from Radiance. Fraggle Rock Back to the Rock Season 1. The Visitors from Kino. Pray for Rock and Roll from Kino. You Can't Run Away from
CC40. Here it is.
This is the big week of CC40. How many copies do you have on pre-order, just in case, Zach?
I didn't want to miss out, so I got 3.
They might have sold out, yeah. The Little Rascals, what are they calling this? The Little Rascals, the Restored Silence Volume 1 from Classic Flicks. California from Kino. Ryuichi Sakamoto Opus from the Janus Contemporaries line. Elvis 4K Steelbook. So odd that that's getting another random ass Steelbook release. Not another, it's the first one. Salt of the Earth from Film Masters. Dune Part 2 4K Steelbook. Left, Right, and Center from Indicator. Family Life from Indicator. The Man Who Had
Don't
Power
Spell
Over
Yule
Women.
Log. I got that one. I recommend that one.
It's a must for sure.
Yeah, it's great.
Oppenheimer 4K getting another Steelbook release. Lots of smaller titles here. This is a pretty damn huge week, though.
That Oppenheimer Steelbook is a worse design than their last one. I don't know why they just don't re-release the last one they did.
Because people would be complaining, which they're complaining anyways.
It's sold out. It's just you get another chance. You just can't sell it on eBay for $100 now.
Right. So, any of these you got on the way or that you're looking to pick up soon?
I do want to get to Terminator eventually. I'll wait on reviews just out of curiosity. Simple Plan is a definite eventually. I've gotten all the Hitchcock Steelbooks, so I'll get North by Northwest. They're very inconsistent. I guess they've gotten through a lot of the big ones, so now we're not going to get some of the ones from Volume 2, I guess.
Yeah, it's kind of frustrating. I really love those Steelbooks.
Yeah, I kind of waited out just in case. I was like, I don't really see them doing some of these on a 4K Steelbook, but I'm kind of hoping they do.
Right. And the Steelbooks all look nice. That was the big thing.
Yeah.
The backside of them with the silhouette was super nice.
Yeah, I like the original covers. I'll always take that with Hitchcock. I mean, you got Sal Bass, I think, did most, if not all of them. So, it's good with me.
All right, Zach, let's get into our conversation this week, which is one that you are definitely the impetus of, one that I'm excited to talk about. And there's some incredible films that are a part of this list. So let's give it an intro. Tell us about yourself, about your upbringing, and why we're talking about this.
Well, I know it's going to become to a shock as many because I'm so good at hiding my accent. But I grew up in Southwestern Virginia. I still live pretty close to that. I live in North Carolina now, but it's like a little over the border. And I have a lot of love for the area. I've had a lot of roots here. I've traveled a lot, but I don't know. There's such a beauty to this area, and I don't know. It's a frustrating place to live, not because of where you're around, but just kind of how. There's really two ways people look at Appalachia who's not from it. Either it is disdain because of comments you hear. Like, I remember there was a pretty big YouTuber recently who mentioned that if you know someone from Appalachia, just assume they're racist until they prove otherwise. So those are always great comments.
Ooh.
Or the other one is pity, and that's not a great one either. So I think it's very underrepresented. I think it's a beautiful area. A lot of great people, a lot of great culture. And it just kind of gets lumped into the South, when I would say the Deep South and Appalachia have very distinct culture differences. So I think I thought it'd be fun to kind of look at some movies that kind of go over that culture difference and really just kind of delve into what Appalachia can be like.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, this is an interesting time to talk about this because people are responding to election results and blaming people in these areas for what's happened. They're blaming, racism for a lot of it. And granted, I guarantee that is some of it. I'm not going to take that away for some people in this country. However, a lot of people just were hurting in the wallet and they wanted a different answer, even though I don't agree that they chose the right answer. That being said, it's an important time to talk about this because this part of the country deserves attention and validation and understanding and empathy. And just these are people. There's nothing crazy here.
And I think it gets lost a lot. Like when you talk about like the political element in Appalachia, you're talking about a group of people who a lot of them are very have a lot of anti-government sentiment. A lot of the movies we'll talk about, I got a documentary I'll mention on here, but you have one side that has pretty much forgotten the working class in the Appalachian Mountains and another class that has extorted them of every resource they have and then left them hanging. So you have an area that distinctly does not like government for, I would say, pretty good reason. That government has never been favorable to them. And that's just how it's went for generations. It's a very distinct area. Honestly, the most annoying thing that's been about Appalachia in the last couple of years is people arguing over Hillbilly Elegy. For a lot of people who don't know a lot about Appalachia, having people argue about what counts as Appalachia, it was terrible on both sides of this too, because it'd be people like, well, this is only so far as Cincinnati. It's like, we have cities in Appalachia, right? Like we do have cities here. It's not all white trash trailer parks out here, guys.
Right.
Like there are cities that exist out here. Shout out to Orbit and Asheville. Like, we got something. We got Roanoke. Cincinnati has been considered part of Appalachia at times. So, it's all.
Well, and of course, that's the obvious question here. And this is going to decide everything tonight. How do you define Appalachia?
There is official people who can do that much better than I can. I think there is a whole group that talks about the hardships of that. For me, it's anything open to the Appalachian mountain range. So, I mean, there's parts of rural New York and there's parts of, the top of Georgia that, do fall into that. To me, the heart of Appalachia is your Virginia, your Carolinas, your Tennessee, your Kentucky, and your Ohio, and your Southern Ohio. I think those, I'm not going to gatekeep what Appalachia is, but I think, when people think of Appalachia, those are the areas. The coal mine areas is what I think people think of.
Right. And of course, because the East Coast, a lot of the states are small and kind of oddly shaped. A lot of the western parts of some random ass states are kind of a part of it. Like Maryland, I think even gets into some of the mountain range there. Pennsylvania has quite a bit in there, I think. So,
when I was looking up Appalachian movies, every Romero film was named. I was like, we're getting into some interesting area. But of course, you have your steel areas. You have your Rust Belt that had part of your Rust Belt, I'll say, not all of it. Your iron mine areas. There's a lot. There's a lot of resources out here. So they're all mines.
And of course, got a shout out. I think, if I remember right, West Virginia is the only state that technically falls fully into Appalachia. Is that right? Correct.
Because I'll get off my soapbox here about the country roads take me home. Shenandoah River and the Blue Ridge Mountains are more in Western Virginia than West Virginia, but we won't get into that. I actually grew up in the Blue Ridge Mountains, so I'm very familiar. So I grew up dead center in them.
John was from Denver. He doesn't know anything.
Yeah, and he didn't write the song. It's not his fault. Let West Virginia have it. They don't have much else.
So as we were prepping for this, what were you looking for in these films?
I think, I think one thing that might be surprising is I don't mind a little stereotype. I think when you're dealing with 2 hours, I think that's a natural thing to do. I don't have an issue with that. I think as long as it's done in a serious and fair way, I think that's okay. Like, I mean, I've met plenty of people in my life who are very stereotypical what people expect when they come down here, and I've met plenty of people who aren't. But I wanted something that kind of represented it. represented not necessarily the hardships, but just what the culture's like, because it's very different at times. So there's some things on here that might seem more of a stretch than others. You mentioned Maryland, so something from Maryland will be mentioned that I have. So
I've got some odd titles because I have to be fully honest. I've been in a part of Appalachia. I'm not going to claim that though because I don't feel like it. I did not get deep enough to really make it a part where I've been able to travel that far. So I definitely want to make this a mission of mine to get closer out there because I've never.
Come visit, man. I'll show you around.
I am dying to. I've never been able to go up and down the East Coast. I've never been able to see so many of these places. And now I've got literally hundreds of friends that are all in that whole time zone that I need to get out there and see. All right. Since this is mostly for you and your list, I'm going to start because my titles are probably going to be slightly more ridiculous on a couple of these.
Okay. It's fine.
I'm going to start on the one that we joked about before we went live. My number 10 will be The Descent. And that's because technically it is set there. It wasn't filmed there. It was filmed over in the UK. And there is no semblance of Appalachia really here. However, there's a lot of caves, there's a lot of mountains, there's a lot of beautiful wilderness in this movie. And one of the things that I've thought about when thinking of this part of the country is the caves. This movie is a perfect movie, and the fact that they say that it's set there, I think is important for the plot, and I think it's something that sets this film apart, because without those caves, it wouldn't work.
I will give you a technical here. The mountain ranges in that part of Europe are the same mountain ranges that we have here. So when Pangea existed. So it does kind of count. I mean, it does have some similar looks to it. Nothing's exact. I mean, when you've been separated that long, things are going to take hold how they will, but it doesn't look like, we'll talk about one later that's filmed in Canada. And Canada's funny. They like to film Appalachia stuff in Canada when the trees, this is going to be me being nitpicky, and I'm going to have some Canadian films on here, so it's fine. But we don't have trees that tall.
Right.
Appalachian trees don't go that high. This isn't redwoods of California, but you do see it a lot.
All right. What is your number 10?
So I'll start with the more serious one because I'm going to do some fun ones later. Since I kind of mentioned a documentary. This is an older documentary. I should have looked up what year it was, but it is Harlan County, USA. It is one of my favorite documentaries. Yeah, it's one of my favorite documentaries. Really goes into the coal mine and essentially how coal mine areas are exploited. For anyone who's seen There Will Be Blood, there's that whole scene at the beginning where he's promising they'll put schools in, they'll build roads, they'll make a town out of this, and they get everyone to sign their life away and then strip them from everything they have and take everything they can from them. And it's about their journey trying to strike, trying to get benefits from the Duke Energy Company, which, by the way, is still a company that exists today, who I pay my energy bills to every month. So, how much win you get out of it's limited. But, I mean, these are people who did fight for their rights because, you go into a coal mine, you were voluntarily shortening your life for the betterment of your kids and your family. And I think it's important that, people like that get paid because that's what they wanted. There's an interesting thing in this area where I don't think the documentary touches on it much, but I think it's a very interesting thing that happened a lot, where coal mining companies would make their own currency. And essentially the only thing you could buy was in their stores that would accept their currencies. So you see that exploitation only got slightly better over time when they stopped doing that and paid them real cash that they could spend at other places. But it never changed much. And I mean, it was pretty much like that until coal no longer became the resource for energy as much.
Yeah, this is one that has been on my watch list for quite some time, and I need to ingest this one. But when you do any research about the area, this is like the number one thing that comes up on pretty much everything related to film.
And there's one scene in it, and I won't spoil anything because I think it's worth watching, but there's a scene where they're up in New York striking, because I think that's where, if I remember correctly, that's where the Duke Energy headquarters is. And there's a part where like this New York cop is talking to one of the strikers, and it's just such a great conversation that they're having because they're talking about how much money they make. And the New York cop, it doesn't even make that much either, but he's like, I wouldn't do that for what you're making. And it's a nice sentiment to see because it is, it's in that kind of forgotten area in the mountains that people are just like, it's fine. But that's a reality that sets in when people actually hear it.
Yeah, I mean, a documentary is probably really good to have on here, and obviously this seems to be the one, so I'm glad it's here. Number 9. This is, I think, my last one that's like kind of dubious, like tangentially related. But I kind of feel it's important for a different aspect, and that is mostly because of the music. And so I'm going to bring up the Coen brothers, "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?" This is more Screams of the South. Like, yeah,
more deep South, but it holds true to things in Appalachia as well.
It does that, and it really provides some highlights of the music style that's been important in Appalachia for quite some time. And obviously, like, this was the most popular soundtrack album for years and years. This was a huge musical hit. This movie's obviously amazing, filmed incredibly well. It's the Coen brothers at like one of their heights. Love everything about this. The accents are pretty damn good for what they're trying to convey. I love this movie, and it's one of the first things I thought of when we were doing this.
Accents are a funny thing for me. I'm not too bothered by bad Southern accents. It's one of those things where I think it's funny. British actors tend to do American accents really well. They are absolutely awful at Southern accents, and I think it's just one of those funny things. It's a different type of accent. But Oh Brother hits that like right tone of exaggeration because I always remember I dated this girl in college, and she had to get her car worked on. She had a Volvo, and my grandpa owns a mechanic shop. So the guy he has working there is a guy who's from like the rural West Virginia area. So we go over there, and he's talking to me, telling me it's going to cost. Have you ever heard Boomhauer from King of the Hill? That is kind of what you're doing with. And even me, I'm not. I can understand most of it, but you get to like 60% and you piece it together. And she's like, what in the world did he just say? I was like, he'll tell you later. Because, I'm just having a conversation with him, but super nice dude. But yeah, accents are a interesting thing because it's almost like the thing you see where the more isolated a community is, it gets that kind of, they're speaking English, but it doesn't always come across that way. And there's a fascination to that because there are so many isolated areas due to the mountains.
Right. Man, and not to mention, I mean, when you start talking about specific, parts of this region's, there's got to be so many dialects and accents that are very specific. It's hard to nail that down anyways.
Oh, yeah. It's like, I never knew what my accent sounded like. And I can tell you the moment I realized it is I used to listen to a lot of interviews with Vince Gilligan, who made Breaking Bad. And he's from Southwest Virginia. And I heard him talk, and I'm like, oh, that's what I sound like. I get it now.
It definitely came out a few minutes ago when you said Asheville too, because it was Asheville.
Asheville, yeah, Tuesday. Yeah. I get that one a lot. That's something you get. Like one of my funniest things, and I'm going to try not to tell too many stories. 'Cause I have a bunch because I think they're funny.
Oh, please!
When I went to Poland, I was over at Auschwitz I, and you're in a group with a bunch of tourists, so people from all over the world. We had a couple who was from Manchester who was in our group, and we were talking to them for a few minutes. And this is my favorite thing about going overseas. People are like, oh, you're from, like, you tell me like, oh yeah, I'm from the South. They're like, oh yeah, like cowboy hats and stuff. I was like, that's more Texas, but yeah, sure. But I get a lot more compliments on an accent overseas than I do here. Like, I remember going over like, oh, it's a Southern accent. It's just so soothing. I'm like, thank you. Usually it just makes people think you're dumb. So I'll take that compliment.
Perfect. All right, sir. You're number 9.
I'm going to go with Lawless. Big fan of the proposition. I have a lot of love for Lawless for one specific reason. I have roots in Franklin County, the moonshine capital of the world. I went to college there at a small little D3 college called Ferrum. You can look it up. We have less students than the local high school did. So, Lawless is a very fun movie talking about the moonshine capital of the world. in Franklin County, played by great cast with Jason Clarke, Tom Hardy, Jessica Chastain, Shia LaBeouf, and Guy Pearce, who I love Guy Pearce. Just a really one I really like. I wish I could think of his name. Do you remember the director's name right at the top of your head?
Not that I can get it while you talk.
Yeah, I really like him as a director. He doesn't make a lot. I mean, him and Nick Cave do a lot together. I think Nick Cave did the music for this one, if I remember correctly. I know he wrote The Proposition.
John Hillcoat is the director.
Hillcoat, yes. And he is going to be doing Blood Meridian, and I think he hits that bleakness without being grimdark. Like, I think he's really good at that. Because I think that's an issue you have. Like, well, The Proposition's a really downer movie, but I don't think it's like mean-spirited or mean for the sake of being mean. I think there's something there that, yeah, it's kind of downer. And I think that's kind of a perfect thing when you're talking about Prohibition South. You know, Prohibition has meant a lot in the South. A lot of people made their money that way. NASCAR exists simply because of Prohibition. You know, people learn, you know, you got a bunch of country guys who like to race cars. And, you know, I grew up, speaking of Franklin County, right in the next county over is Martinsville. So anyone who's familiar with NASCAR knows Martinsville race because it's the smallest track in NASCAR in a very, very small city. That's barely, I don't even think it has 30,000 people. I mean, it's very small. It's a very small city. But what would be your next one?
Lawless is great. I'll be talking about that one later. My next one is a little more Appalachia, but also some people might think this is a little too Ohio. I have to say, I truly loved the film Super 8 from 2011. This is J.J. Abrams' directed movie, and it does have a lot of that overall feeling of just hardworking, the type of people that are, you know, have worked at the same place for 40 years, own this whole town basically. And the film itself, like, everybody shits on J.J. Abrams. This movie is so much better than people give it credit for. The whole train crash scene near the beginning of the movie is so compelling and so well done. Obviously, it's J.J. Abrams, so there's, you know, the whole lens flare thing that happens a few times. But everything else about this, I mean, the cast is great with Kyle Chandler and Elle Fanning. The way that this whole story is, you know, set up just for people that love movies. Like, you kind of have to love this movie. It's so much fun. And I really think people that haven't watched it since theatrical release or something like that, you should probably go back and watch it. It's been a long time. This movie still hits really hard.
I have good memories of it. I have not seen it in a long time, though. I think Abrams, I guess the frustrating thing about him is that he is a really good producer. I think that is really where his talents lie. But I mean, he always had a good talent at directing.
Yep.
My bias for him is Lost. I have a lot of love for that show. I've seen it a stupid amount of times. And I think he directed some of the best episodes. I think he had such a cinematic eye even then that he really pushed Lost to be something maybe more than it ever would have been. You know, he pretty much made an hour-and-a-half movie to start the show with a wild budget at the time. So yeah, I need to go back and revisit Super 8. I think that would that's one I really need to check out again.
It's a good one. I think you'll like it. So number 8 for you.
You know, I'm not going in any order. I'm just like looking and saying, yeah, I'll talk about that one. I'm going to go with. Yeah, I'll go with this one. So somebody actually mentioned in the comments, and I'm glad they did. I actually mentioned Soderbergh earlier, so I'm going to mention Logan Lucky. I adore that movie to pieces. One of my favorite little tropes, and since I mentioned Lost, I get to mention it again, is a Southern villain who has a very verbose vocabulary. I really like that. I like that underestimation factor to it. Like, Daniel Craig kills that role the entire time he's in it. And you got a bunch of people who are just naturally underestimated because they're just blue collar guys who didn't go to college. They didn't have an education, but were able to pull off, you know, the same thing we see in Soderbergh's ocean movies. I mean, it's their own version of it. It's not a bunch of white collar guys trying to steal more money. It's, you know, people making a living. And I think that's awesome. I think it's a very fun perspective. I think he hits it on the head very well.
Once again, I love this movie, and I'll be talking about it in a little while.
Sweet. That was in that year. Speaking of country roads, that was the year where like 3 different movies had country roads in their soundtrack. It was that, it was Alien Covenant, and it was Kingsman 2. I was like, did the rights just come open or something? Why do we have 3 different?
They got cheaper that year for some reason. All right, so we are changing tones drastically for my number 7. This is a movie that I've seen a lot of people call disturbing, and I can't really argue with that. It is the oldest movie I've talked about so far, and that is 1978's The Deer Hunter.
Okay.
This movie's a classic for so many reasons. The first of all, you really can't start to talk about this without just listing the cast. I mean, Robert De Niro, Meryl Streep, Christopher Walken, they are easily the most memorable parts of this, primarily De Niro. But this movie is just gritty and sad and very much steeped in a lot of what we were talking about before we started with the list. Like a lot of people that are in a situation that they didn't really control and how it's affected their lives. And this movie goes to a lot of places. And if you've never seen it, not much else to say about it without trying to not give away some of it. But this movie's incredible. It's a classic for an absolute reason, and you should definitely go watch it.
That was one where I didn't watch it for a long time because my mom refused to rewatch it. She got it from a video store, and she said it was one of the most nerve-wracking experiences she ever had. And she just never showed it to me. She wouldn't do it. So I didn't see it until I was an adult, but it's great. Is how you say his name? Camino? Michael Camino?
Camino or Chimino, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think he has a bad habit of some bloated scripts, and I'm not going to sit there and say this one doesn't have it, but I mean, it's easy to grade by. The performances carry it so much. I mean, they really do.
It's not a perfect film, but it is a great film. And yeah, truly, I mean, Walken and De Niro specifically, this movie is legendary.
All right. So since you went with an old one, I'll copy you and go a little bit older. I'm going to go with one of my favorite horror movies that really touches on the idea of, you know, how religion is misused in the area and things such as that, and go with Night of the Hunter.
You're just giving my entire list just lower.
Oh, man. Let's talk about him again. So I'll keep it short because we'll talk. I could talk about Night of the Hunter forever. So,
yep.
Mitchum, it's one of my favorite performances from him. I think it is such a tragedy that it reminds me. I just watched Psycho 3 recently, and I listened to Anthony Perkins talk about how he never felt like he could be a director. And I watched Psycho 3, and I'm like, he did a fantastic job. It's so well directed.
Yep. And
it's the same thing with Lawton. Lawton did that, first, of course, but it's just like, this is kind of the negative part of criticism. You know, you get these guys who make these phenomenal movies that are a little bit ahead of their time, and that's it. They don't ever touch it again. And it's like, That's just a tragedy. But I'm glad we got Night of the Hunter, so it's at least a little bit worth it.
Well, and yeah, we're going to talk about it, but this is just one of those movies that if you've never seen it, pretty much everybody needs to see this movie. And I really try not to be like, what? You've never seen that? But this is one of those that like almost deserves to be like filmmaking gatekeeping in a way. Like everybody should be required to see this movie. It is so good.
Yeah, and it hits a lot of trying to think of the word. I read something and then I got lost for a second. But no, Night of the Hunter is one of those movies to me that always kind of branched the two big eras for horror. You know, the 30s and the 40s was just these monster movies. You know, that was our representation. And then we get into the 60s and 70s, and the villain is man. And this kind of merges them. This is, you know, Mitchum pretty much plays a monster, but in a human form, and it branches it so well together.
I fully agree. Yeah. And I will get into that in a little bit. My number 6 is one that I feel like nobody ever talks about, which this was I think from that year, I saw it when I was younger because it's not like an intense movie truly, but I have to go with The Mothman Prophecies. I love this movie so much and always have. Great cast here as well,
Yep.
primarily Richard Gere, Laura Linney, but also Will Patton is great in this, Deborah Messing, Lucinda Jenny from Thinner and a bunch of other things. This movie is about a guy traveling down the road, and there is a car crash that happens because his wife sees this winged creature, and suddenly there is this weird, like, unfurling of events where many people are seeing this winged creature, and it's the supernatural story that is just confusing and fun and interesting and just sort of chaos. And it comes to this small town area that really, I don't know, this film, like, it feels like it lights on fire. Something about this, it's like very interesting to watch and very compelling to draw you in a way that sort of like quiet horror movies don't always do a great job doing. And this one is amazing.
Yeah, Mothman as like a cryptid is very interesting. It's definitely the most iconic one in Appalachia is Mothman. I've been to the statue. I've seen the remade bridge. I've been to the museum. The love for Mothman is such a fascinating thing because, you know, of course, there was a lot of fear when this happened, and now you have people who love Mothman. He's like an icon of West Virginia. It's really cool, and I love the movie too. I think it captures almost like that paranoia of seeing something you're not supposed to, knowing no one's going to believe you.
Yep.
And you know, it's those are the type of tales that you can get. I love Mothman Prophecy. It's one I definitely need to rewatch. Why do I feel like Kino put that out on Blu-ray? That seems like a Kino title.
They probably will because Imprint released it.
Oh, wonderful. I predicted it.
Kino releases everything that Imprint has released just 2 years later. So
right.
Give it some time.
Okay, let me see. I'm going to try to pick something you may not have on your list. All right, I'm going to go with a little folk horror movie called Jugface. Is that one on your list? Oh my God. I tried. I really did. I really tried not to pick one. I was like, what's the least known one on my list?
It's okay.
Jugface is great. Little folk horror movie that has Fessenden in it, so that automatically gives it like 5 points.
Yep.
Just for that. It really does capture superstition. I think it does that very well, and it doesn't do it in a way that's looking down on people because of superstitions they have.
Right.
Another movie that did that, and I'll kind of mention this as an offhand one, it's not on my list, is Them That Follow, that came out a couple years ago, that was had Walton Goggins in it, where he played I don't know what the religion's it's a type of Christianity where they play with snakes. I couldn't tell you. I have met these people and I have seen these churches around. I've never been to one, but you know, it kind of went into that and the idea of playing with venomous snakes and things like that. So there's a little bit of basis for that, I think, in this film as well.
That is intriguing. I'm going to have to look that up because I adore Walton Goggins. And speaking of, obviously it's not going to be on this list, but I feel like Justified has to be mentioned. Obviously it's been talked about in the chat a little bit, but how do you feel about Justified, the show? Have you watched it?
Oh, I love it. I've watched Justified several times. I think they capture a lot of. That's one of those shows, and this is why I love Elmore Leonard. I'm a big fan of him as a writer. He's one of my favorite authors. He was somebody who captured Appalachia so well in the way people talk. It's another person who didn't look down and didn't just, you know, stereotypes are there. You know, I think somebody talked about Dewey Crow is very much a Florida stereotype, but I don't think he did it in a mean-spirited way, especially because so much of Leonard's novels are set in Florida. But yeah, I love Justified. Boyd Crowder is a great character. One of my favorites.
I adore Justified. Timothy Olyphant and Walton Goggins being together in a show is like my dream. Everything about it is just so much fun.
And that's what I really liked about Goggins. You know, when he chooses a lot of roles, and of course he plays a Southern guy. He has a very noticeable accent, which isn't as bad when you hear him in interviews. It's very fascinating. But he's talked about it a lot, and I really appreciate his stance that he's not going to pick scripts that are there to make fun. And I appreciate that a lot from him. He might play somebody who has some stereotype to him, but it's not to look down on. Like I think of, I think he's the reason Hateful Eight is as good as it is. Like, I think
Did
he's
great in it.
phenomenal in that.
Yeah, my favorite show of all time is The Shield. So I've been with Walton Goggins for quite some time. Okay, well, my next 4 titles are titles that have already been mentioned. So,
Run through them.
my number 5 is Lawless. I love this movie because I am, and I know it's weird to say because he's not a great person outside of films. I'm a big fan of Shia LaBeouf's work. I think he was great in this and delivered something that made this feel more genuine in this movie. And he, like, I don't know, something about his roles that he was choosing around this time, like this and Fury, they almost felt related in a way. Like he was clearly delivering emotions that he was working out in some of his roles around then, and he really brings it out in Lawless. Tom Hardy is also great in this. This whole movie is just an interesting, like, small look into things, and I think that's one of the things that I love about these movies is a lot of them, they don't have to be super high stakes. They're just affecting what feel like realistic people. And because of that, it's just another day. And it's something that people have been facing this adversities for a lot of their life. And they just fight fucking through a lot of these.
Yeah. And Lawless hits it. It hits that era so well. And it hits that type of people. Like you said, it doesn't have to be high stakes. This doesn't have to be end of the world. But this is, in a way, it is. Like, this is their livelihood.
Exactly.
This is all they have. And, it's not like they're not gangsters making it rich. They're just making a living.
Yep.
All right. Let's see if I can pick something that you haven't. Okay. I'm going to pick, and really this is barely related, but I thought I had to mention it. I grew up in the woods. I grew up walking the woods a lot. And the only movie I think has ever gotten the confusion that you get walking through the Appalachian Mountains and woods is the Blair Witch Project. 100% every time. And that's one, we were talking about the tree thing earlier. Not big trees in, somewhere like Maryland or anything like that. But it shows how easy it is to get turned around, how easy it is to get lost because everything just looks the same and there's a weird amount of room. But there's nothing really to see. There's no, there's always like this hypnotism to it. I've gotten lost in the woods plenty of my life, and that's about how it feels. Like, I know I've been past here before.
Yeah, this was very close to making my list, and I wanted to include it. I mean, it's a masterpiece. There's not much else to say. I completely agree. The amount of times that I've gone hiking in the forest somewhere, I have a feeling it's a very different forest than the Appalachian forest, because like where I grew up, California, a lot of the forests that I was in, that I hiked in, there are landmarks. There are lots of things that you can get your bearings, because it's not just never-ending trees with like some rises and falls and some hills. It's like, oh, there's a giant rock formation every so often, or you're literally on the side of like an actual mountain that is, thousands of feet in the air, and you can see the elevation rising and falling. So there's some other ways to get your bearings, but yeah.
Are you familiar with like kudzu, like the plant kudzu? You ever seen it?
Not by name. I don't know.
So there's a lot of names for it. Some people call it the Virginia creeper. It's essentially an invasive species that was brought over from Japan because people decided to make sunroofs with it, essentially. It has taken over the woods here, which also makes the whole thing just look like a jungle, because it just eats these trees up. It just goes all the way up them and eats them all the way down. Wow. And covers them from light. They're completely evasive. They try to burn them out. Doesn't do any good. They're still here. So that also doesn't help that area, because it's just jungly looking in some parts.
Right.
Yeah. The vine that ate the South.
All right. What is your next one?
Okay. I'm going to go with... I should have ranked these. I'm going to go with October Sky. It's on yours, isn't it? Rocket Boys. I'm going to call it Rocket Boys so I feel better when you talk about it. But no, it was really that one is one where I think it represents the idea of wanting to get out, but still having, not trying to do better for yourself, trying to not be stuck in the same pattern that unfortunately your parents and grandparents have been stuck in. Not have this area of disdain, but just want better for yourself. really sweet movie. Really well done. I think it's a great story. It has a great cast in it. Gyllenhaal is fantastic. I still think that's one of his best performances, and it's so early in his career. But yeah, I like Rocket Boys.
Yep, I'll be talking about that later, I promise.
Okay.
Number 4 is Logan Lucky. Again, it was mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
I think this movie is something that just hits so perfectly for me. I love heist movies. I love Soderbergh. Channing Tatum is great in this. The cast is fun. It's set in such a Appalachian event with the NASCAR race and everything. It's just, I mean, this movie had to be here. This movie is so much funnier than I expected it to be going in, and it's a blast.
Me and my girlfriend still quote the "I am incarcerated" all the time. Like, it's just it's very quotable. It's great. And yeah, Charlotte Motor Speedway. I've been there, and weirdly Seth MacFarlane's in the movie, which I always think is funny. When he shows up, I'm like, oh right, Seth MacFarlane's in this movie for like 2 minutes.
Yep. Out of nowhere.
All right, I'm gonna go with. All right, I'm gonna take. Maybe this one is on your list, so maybe I can get one.
I only have 3 left, and you've named all 3 of them already, so we're good.
Sweet. I'm actually gonna go with Tucker and Dale versus Evil. And I love Tucker and Dale for how well it subverts the expectation of what people do when they go to the South when they visit for the first time. They think it's a bunch of people in the woods that are going to murder them, and it's just a bunch of guys trying to work on a cabin. I think it's hilarious. I think it's so sweet, like how it takes this, and it really just makes fun of like people like was it Chad? I think he was the douchey kid in the movie. Makes fun of that idea a lot, and I'm still sad there's not a second one because I would watch a series of these.
Yeah. I got to read that comment out loud. Matthew says, if I was a guest on here in an effort to deliver a bold piece of performance art, I would use 7 of the 10 spots for the Wrong Turn franchise. Oh, that's hilarious.
I couldn't with a straight face put Wrong Turn 5 on here. I don't think there's been a movie that's given me more of a migraine than Wrong Turn 5.
Anything else about Tucker and Dale?
No, I think that's good. I think I'm good with that.
It's a wonderful movie. Everybody needs to see it. It's hilarious. I'm kind of amazed that you said this one because I really thought I was going to get away with an underground one that Zach didn't want to talk about. But yeah, Jugface. This movie's incredible. It is
great.
So underseen and very. I don't know. I can't even say underrated because people just haven't seen it. It's like a soft-spoken movie that just flies under everybody's radar, and exactly like you said, what makes it special is like so much of the atmosphere in this movie is just creepy. It's just good. Everybody needs to watch Jugface. I was going to ask too. I believe wasn't this on an Arrow release in the UK? It was a double feature or something.
It may have been. I actually found a Blu-ray. I think it was one of those ones that eventually went out of print, but I swear I have a Blu-ray of it somewhere. Maybe it's on the other side if I got it.
Okay, yeah. So Arrow in the UK they released Dementor, and Jugface came on a bonus feature disc on it.
Why? Is there a connection I'm missing?
Is it the same director? Let me see. Yeah, same director. Did both.
Okay, fair enough then. I was just really confused.
All right, so 3 left for you.
3 left. All right. Sure. I'll talk about. If you're going to talk about the South or any part of even Appalachia, it's hard not to talk about the Civil War. So I'm going to go with Cold Mountain. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's basically a Civil War romance. Has a great cast in it. It's beautifully shot. I wish I could remember the director's name. I know he passed away a few years after this movie, but it's a beautifully shot movie that really kind of, I think, delves into a lot of mixed emotions for the Confederacy, especially in the Appalachian area, where they're fighting for something they don't care about or can't afford to care about. So they have a very different perspective than the Deep South does. And I think there are parts of that do such a good job really displaying that and discussing it in its own way while still keeping to its premise of a Civil War romance.
I have not seen this. I have heard a lot about it. I've heard that it's great, and I definitely need to see this. Not much to say since I haven't seen it.
Okay.
Night of the Hunter is my number
Okay.
2. This movie is perfection. This movie, there are so many scenes that you could literally take and frame and just immediately see a group of people like feel emotions just by looking at that one particular shot. Obviously, one of the most compelling is the river shot. There are so many things that happen in this movie that, I don't know, it was so ahead of time and still so relevant to the kind of shit that we're hearing about today. This movie is a masterpiece. I really wish that he was able to direct more films. The performance here, primarily from our main, is incredible. The kids are also really great in this. For a film that came out when it did, they do so much better than I expected them to do with this. The storyline itself is just a sinister story, which makes it great and compelling from the very first moment you turn it on. Love Night of the Hunter. I absolutely think people that have never seen it are crazy. Please go watch it. Like, this is literally one of the best films of all time, and it still somehow does not get enough love because it's not as like mainstream as a lot of the bigger films from back then, and it's incredible.
It is. It's I'm always shocked. I'm glad there's things like Criterion out for that, because I feel like it's helped it get more of an audience since it's Blu-ray release.
Absolutely.
Because it's a beautiful movie. I still think the shot, I'm going to do this without spoiling, there's a shot in the water that I still think is one of my favorite shots of probably any movie.
Yep.
Yeah. Am I at my number 1?
Number 1, or no, number 2.
Number 2. Which one did I skip? Okay, I'll go with we'll do the. Did I really? I know I'm counting right. I probably missed one. I don't even realize which one I missed. So I should have done them in order. All right, I'll do the Devil All the Time. Like I said, I didn't do these in order, but Devil All the Time was one that came out 4 or 5 years ago now, right, on Netflix.
I feel like this was during COVID time, but maybe
was it?
Not.
Maybe it was 2020. Let me check now. Devil All the Time. Yeah, it was 2020. So I read this book when it came out, and I thought it was phenomenal. I think it captures a lot of little things about Appalachia. Like, it doesn't. It's almost trying to puzzle board a lot of different things together. The religious aspect, the livelihood, the poor elements, and it tries to find a way to almost jigsaw them together. Some parts of it work better than others, but I think it does do its probably the best job of trying to capture such a wide array of culture at one time. I think some of the performances are uneven. As much as I love Robert Pattinson, I think his performance is it swings hard, but it doesn't always hit. But I think it is fun. I think it's a fun performance. It's probably Tom Holland's best performance of his career.
100%.
Yeah. I think there was some really good stuff in it. I think Jason Clarke. Hey, I got 2 Jason Clarke movies in here. I just realized that. He's much more of an asshole in this one, but I like that weird serial killer angle they have in there, because and that's really the whole movie, is they have all these like little things that are just kind of joined together.
Yeah,
and that's either going to work for people or it's not. But it did work for me. I think it captures a lot.
Yeah, this is a great pick. This movie is definitely underseen, and Tom Holland needs to do other things that are not Marvel, and this shows why. The whole cast here is pretty damn great. I always love Pattinson too. Anything with Pattinson is always a good time.
Yeah. Like, I think his accent's uneven, but it's a fun performance.
Okay, so my last one, everybody should already know what it was if you're paying attention, is as everybody's joking about the name in the chat now, October Sky. This movie's beautiful and aspirational to like the most, I don't know, it could have been cheesy, but it's of just a very earnest aspiration, which I think makes it work so well. And again, kind of like you said, like all these people that feel stuck, but they are doing their damnedest to get anything accomplished. And Gyllenhaal is incredible in this. It's not my favorite role from him, but it might be his best. Genuinely, he puts on a clinic with the way that he acts in this film. But the whole film is just a great, beautiful movie to watch.
This was shown a lot in school when I was a kid. This one's one that always got thrown on. But yeah, great movie. Surprised this one seems like it should have more releases than it does. I'm actually surprised it doesn't have a 4K or something by now.
I don't know who owns it. It's got to be a Disney or something like that at this point.
So we'll never get it. Got it. Cool. Awesome. Okay, I'm gonna go with my number one, and it really wasn't on purpose, but I'm gonna make was it Matthew? Yeah, I'm gonna make Matthew real happy right now, and I'm just gonna say Wrong Turn 1. I'm gonna go for it. As insulting as that movie should be, it terrified me as a child. It really did. And yeah, there is something to say probably about like incest cannibals and inbred cannibals in the woods, that sort of thing. But I mean, I've lived here my whole life and people talk about that now, like as a fear of when you go out in the woods as a joke. So yeah. I don't know. It's probably not the most sensitive joke, but it is one that works for the movie. I think it is. I think it's genuinely frightful in a lot of ways, like how well they kind of capture backwoods Appalachia in the most extreme way possible. And you know what? It works. It's effective.
I will be the hot take of the night. I've never seen any of the Wrong Turn movies.
Really?
None of them.
Wrong Turn 1's worth watching. I like the second one. The second one's a little bit more of a comedy, and it has Henry Rollins on it. So you should watch it for Henry Rollins.
On that note, I absolutely will. I just looked it up. October Sky is Universal. So, I mean, theoretically, that could be a VSU someday. Who knows?
And Matthew, I actually do not hate the Wrong Turn remake. I actually kind of like it. The funniest thing about that movie, though, is where it takes place kind of where I grew up. And this is going to be like a really dumb and nitpicky thing for someone who doesn't live in Appalachia. But the way Appalachia is pronounced in some of these movies is ear-grating. Appalachian gets thrown around a lot. And I'm just like, no, that's not right. That's not the right way. I've heard in some areas it is, but it is not where Wrong Turn takes place.
Dallas's Pumpkinhead and Crazy in Alabama are good ones, too. Yeah, I could see Pumpkinhead. I gotta be honest, I've never been the biggest Pumpkinhead fan. I love the practical effects in it, but something about the story itself just has never clicked with me.
I have seen Pumpkinhead. It's been a long time, though. I didn't end up choosing it just because I don't remember if it really got. I know it takes place in Appalachia, but I can't remember if it really does a lot with the location. It was kind of like when we talked about The Descent. I didn't end up going with The Descent because I was like, yeah, there's, it didn't really go far enough for me, as great as that movie is. So I was just like, I'm going to leave that one out.
Yep, I'm the ignoramus Westerner that chose The Descent. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. Hey, it was on my final list, man. I almost put it on here, but I'm glad we didn't, so we'd have more differences. So I'm very
even though you had half my list. I'm amazed that I picked ones that you loved that much. Honestly,
I was really convinced Jugface wasn't going to be on yours. I'm like, I'm going to get him with Jugface,
and then I had it way near the top just because I liked it that much.
And somebody brought it up. They didn't bring up the movie. They brought up Ozarks because they were asking if people get that confused. I even get that mixed up because I was like, Winter's Bone's definitely going to go on here. And then when I looked it up, I'm like, that's in the Ozarks? I had no idea that was an Ozarks movie.
Really? See, I actually thought about that one earlier. I didn't know it was Ozarks. Okay.
Yeah, when I was looking up, like, oh shit, that's not Appalachia. And I was like, I can't put that on my list. I would sound real ignorant if I put that one on my list.
Very interesting. I got to say, this was an incredible topic for tonight. So thank you for bringing it up. I mean, there's films on here that will never come up in any other conversation. Like, when I had a chance to talk about Jugface, like, they're just so great to be able to talk about that, and October Sky, and everything. This was incredible conversation.
No, I appreciate you letting me come on and just talk about home. I always appreciate getting a chance to do that. I don't get to do it a lot, so I appreciate that a whole lot.
Well, as promised, I told you I would let you do it. We're going to go out and he's going to sing Country Roads to us in full. So thanks, Zach.
If you don't want everybody to unsubscribe, you will not do that.
Everybody, thanks for hanging out tonight. This has been a great show. They Live by Film. Anything else coming up soon, or making any more 96-minute videos talking about what you've watched that you want to shout out?
I got some ideas that I'm working on. I'm not going to say any of them because then I'll commit and then it'll be like 2 years before they release. So no, I couldn't do that. I could not do that. I've learned the hard way not to do that. So I got some stuff we're going to be talking about some. Oh man, I'm going to really screw
Zatoichi.
Thank you for not making me say it because I was going to mess it up completely. We got 3 of those coming up, so I'm watching them starting this weekend. So we'll be doing a recording for that. That should be out Friday or the Friday after. So if people want to hear our takes on that.
I love that I know the topic coming up for your podcast.
I'm glad you did because I was really going to screw up that pronunciation. Screw it up on Sunday a lot. I'm going to have it like a sticky note with like spelled out phonetically.
Everybody should be subscribed to They Live by Film. Please go check them out if you have not. It's 3 gentlemen that have all been on the channel. 2 of them much more than the Irishman. But it's still a lot of fun. Great conversations all the time. You guys are amazing. If you like conversations like this, join the Patreon in the description below. It's a fun time. Zach's there hanging out, sharing reviews of all of the 237 brand new movies he watches every year in the theater. And I'm always appreciative to read them. We would love to have you. And on that note, we will see you all next Thursday. Have a good one. And see you then.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching The Disconnected. On the way out, make sure that you are subscribed to the channel, that you've liked the video, and that you've copied the link to be able to share with someone else that may appreciate this. Tell me.
The audio commentary. It's a dying art form, but here at One Track Mind, I, your wonky yet affable host Ryan Luis Rodriguez, analyze film through the prism of these embryonic forms of podcasting, one audio commentary at a time. Masterpieces, crapster pieces, live action, animation, cult classics, films literally no one has ever heard of. No track is too small, and no track is too big. Join me and my guests from the entertainment world as we keep these features alive every other Tuesday. Hey, who else is going to discuss Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey one week and Citizen Kane the next? Us, that's who. Sure, you have to put up with my voice, but there's a certain give and take in this industry. That's One Track Mind, part of the Someone's Favorite Productions family and available wherever you get your podcasts.
Thank you for listening. To hear more shows from the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network, please select the link in the description